Jamarl Thomas. I am here with Mrs. Thomas. I am the Progressive Soapbox. This is the Progressive Soapbox. I am your host today with my lovely co-host, who's not Vanna White. This is my wife. No, this is Patron Appreciation. We've tried this once before. We've been having technical difficulties revolving around the image system itself and the camera and the filter going on in the background. But I think we got it straight. It looks a hell of a lot better than what it was. Now. Yeah. At one point, we were like a ghost, so you could see through us when we were doing the show and all this other stuff. But we think it's working. So let's try this again for people who weren't necessarily here before or hadn't heard the spill or just so happened may have just stumbled in on what's taking place. This is the Contributor Appreciation Show. It used to be called the Patron Appreciation Show, but people contribute in ways beyond Patron. So, Contributor Appreciation. This is our specific thank you. I like that. Specific thank you. I like the way that sounds. This is our specific thank you that we give to say thank you for your help with the show itself. It's one of those things where people donate if they're digging the content. So it's not something that you're forcing people to do. So I always appreciate it that much more when people do contribute to assist with the content. So shout out to the audience.
Yes, once a week. There's a post that goes up on the Patron platform because, like he said, this was originally Patron Appreciation.
Oh, and by the way, on that Facebook. So we have a private Facebook group of people who contribute in ways beyond patrons. Some people just don't like patrons. Some people want to contribute through PayPal. And that's perfectly fine. And we'll give you the link to the content. To the content that's dedicated to the contributors. So, anything else?
Nope. You got it, babe.
Got it. I nailed it.
You cut me off, so you got it now. You got it.
What do you mean I cut you off?
You got it, babe.
What did I cut you off on?
You got it. Come on, well, we got to get the feed going.
The feed is going. I don't even know what they cut you off on.
That's even worse.
Okay. All right. Well, I am going to take that as if everything was said that needed to be said. Patron Appreciation Show is 1 p.m., typically 1 p.m. on Sundays. Typically 1 p.m. on Sundays. I'm trying to think, is there any special guests or anything that's coming up? I don't think so. We did a Sanders thing. So her and I went through a Sanders convention. It wasn't a convention. It was organizing for Sanders. And that was yesterday. That was awesome. And we got to meet a bunch of other people who were lefties, who were Sanders supporters, who were out there pushing for Sanders. I was recognized by 3 people, which is the weirdest experience because those people feel like they know you and you have no idea who they are. It's like they're completely opaque to you, but they know you. Mm-hmm. So, all right. You have nothing to say, nothing to add to the process?
I'm trying to see. I'm working in the background trying to get. Sorry, I dropped something. I like to follow the feed through YouTube, so I look down at my phone a lot to do that.
Yeah, but it's more important.
Can you let me finish what I'm saying? Let me finish.
My bad.
We're getting started. We had a rocky start, but we're trying to get back on track. What I was gonna say was, I'm following this because I'm trying to figure out a way to get the people from the last feed onto this feed. So I'm just trying to see who's come over from the last one, following the comments here, trying to see if people have problems and steer them to this feed from the last one.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, the page, like, at the moment when the stream ends, it ends. Like, there are no concurrent stream that runs in the process.
Yeah, we just gotta build back up, that's all. So.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, they'll get a notification, and they knew that we were having difficulties, so hopefully they'll come back.
Yeah.
So, all right. So the first story for today is what's going on in the background. I think you can see that was another problem we were having. Sometimes OBS has these weird situations where it doesn't show like the background, like it just goes black, and it's like, okay, now I have to shut it down in order to get the background back. OBS, it is awesome in some respects, but buggy in others. But in this case, it's working. What you're seeing in the background is a climate march or a protest that the youth were doing in the UK. I mean, they were doing this in droves. Like, this was in waves. Like, this was just one of them. They had been doing this for weeks. And finally, somebody heard them. one Mr. Jeremy Corbyn. Jeremy Corbyn is trying to force a vote to declare an emergency, a climate emergency, in the UK. Not just climate, but also an environmental emergency. Now, I couldn't figure out what an environmental emergency meant. Meaning, like in the United States, if we call a natural disaster, there are certain legal processes that kick into play. I imagine something similar takes place in the UK, even though I didn't see it within the stories. Mm-hmm. The stories were more concerned with just the fact that the Labour leader, head of the opposition, has taken on climate as one of its major issues to the point of saying, we're going to force this issue. Let me read a little bit about this, because it's an interesting story, and I like the fact that Jeremy Corbyn is pushing this. So, Labour this week, here he is, Mr. Corbyn, affable guy. Labour will this week force a vote in Parliament to declare a national environmental and climate change emergency, as confidential documents show the government has only spent a fraction of the 100 million funds allocated in 2015 to support clean air projects. Now, this is the catch. The impetus to this was these leaked documents. Apparently, the UK had a fund where they were supposed to be allowed to spend $100 million on clean air projects.
By 2020, I think, was what they said.
Yeah, they had a timetable for it. And you find out that they only spent like $2 million. 2 million, euros. Mm-hmm. So think of it. You have a climate change disaster. They are told you have 12 years left to get your house in order. And that's not 12 years, and then start, but 12 years in totality to get your house in order. And that's a conservative figure by scientists who are freaking out. And the UK says, all right, we can afford $100 million to save the world. To preserve our livelihoods from environmental catastrophe. We can afford $100 million. I think the UK is like the fourth richest or something like that. Like it's a decent economy. And they only spend $2 million of it. It gets across that they don't care.
Yeah.
That's
clearly it's not urgent.
Yeah, that's not a sense of emergency where you're, throwing money at a problem to fix it.
Especially when you have the funds already allocated to work towards correcting the problem.
Yeah.
So the vote is supposed to force them to put the money back out, spend the money?
Yeah. Well, no. So that's the interesting part. It sounds like he's doing something else. This sounds like Corbyn is doing something politically of saying we need to do something about this immediately.
Right.
It didn't seem like they were trying to force them to spend the funds. The people were saying that they were going to spend the funds on time, meaning at the point where national attention was paid to it at that point.
We got this.
Yeah. It's like immediately they spent $7 million within the course of like a few days. It was like, no, it's $7 million, it's $7 million. Either way, that doesn't look all that much better. It's like you were given $100 million to spend and you only spend $2 million. No.
We were just about to write this check.
Get it right.
Didn't give us time.
It's $7 million
tomorrow.
That's right. So let's continue with this part. Just to give a little bit more information on this. The motion will call for new targets on mass rollouts of renewable and low carbon energy and transport, proper funding of environmental protection, reversing species decline, and developing plans to move towards a zero waste economy. He's going beyond that. That's what I mean. This is not spend the money. This is we need to have a new environmental policy in the UK.
Specific actions that need to take place.
Exactly. The plan comes as a confidential minutes and government advisory group obtained by the observers show how but a small portion of the 100 million pot allocated to Highway England to combat air pollution on and near our roads in 2015 has not been spent despite 2020 deadline. I mean, well, hey, to be honest, it's not like they were able to hit the Brexit deadline either. So, what are we supposed? Too soon? Too soon?
Too soon.
Or maybe too late. Which one is it? I mean, Brexit was supposed to take place by now. We were supposed to be done with Brexit. At least the initial stages of Brexit. You know the wild part about that?
Maybe that's why they were behind, because of all the Brexit stuff. They got caught up in the Brexit stuff.
But this was supposed to be a place that was specific to highways. The highways wasn't doing anything. Well, that's not true.
But they were busy with Brexit not happening.
That might be true. That could be fair. That could be a fair point. Because there are roadways that connect the UK to other parts of Europe, right? I mean,
I believe
is that true? Yeah, because you can take a train from the
land.
UK. Yeah, you can take a train. So if that's true, then the Brexit, there will be avenues dealing with going from point A to point B, checkpoints and those type of things.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, but I'm not buying it. I don't think they cared. Like, I think, look, there's one
not
thing
high
if
enough
you put it as a priority. Like, climate change is a big deal, and you said it kind of like a war. I'll tell you this. If it was, we're at war, and we need to spend $100 million to kill somebody, I guarantee they would have spent that shit yesterday. If it was, hey, we need to give these guys tax cuts, spend it yesterday. It's climate, man. Like, it doesn't get a sense of urgency in people.
Can I just say, this topic, so we talked earlier about how we pull our topics for Patron Appreciation Show from what the patrons suggest. This topic was actually suggested this week, right?
Yeah,
by
Christy.
Nathaniel Farrier wanted us to talk about climate change. And so...
Oh, that's right. This was the hook into his topic.
He wanted to talk about climate. He wanted us to just talk about climate change. There's not any conversation about it. It's not on most people's radars. It's not a big enough priority.
Well, so three things. Yeah, three things that kind of
popped into your head
all at once. It's almost like a thought packet. It's like, bam, all that stuff comes at once. Extinction Rebellion. They got to get credit on this. So Extinction Rebellion was the group that was pushing for these protests. The student protesting all this other stuff. Extinction Rebellion has been a large part of instigating actions all across the UK, and even to the point of getting a little bit in the United States. I had a gentleman on for, this is the Battle of Stalingrad.
That's not what
this is not what it was supposed to be. All right, right here.
Do you want to push the video? Because they got some good... They're talking.
With my friends and bring posters and make a ruckus about climate change.
These students are going on strike to protest against climate change.
Missing school.
I love this, and I love this for a few reasons. A, it pulls kids into the political process. God, I wish this was taking place in the United States. And secondary, why is it not taking place in the United States?
Well, so was this organized by Extinction Rebellion?
Yeah, either Extinction Rebellion or the kids themselves. You know, they started this kind of self-organization of sorts. But the kids started to do this all across Europe. I mean, it wasn't just in the UK. I'm not going to be around in 30 years, 20 years. Kids are. And the crisis that these guys are talking about precipitate, meaning from the standpoint of climate, will dramatically affect them. And it will dramatically affect their kids. Also, the money that we're spending on military, do you realize even from the standpoint of military, we're adversely affected? The Pentagon is freaking out about this. So it's not just... I don't understand why kids aren't freaked out about it in the United States, or at the very least more animated about it, whether they fully grasp it or not. Because I don't think people fully grasp this notion that the environmental collapse. And they may have other things that are more important to them. Meaning, if you're trying to get into college, if you're in Europe, you may not have to pay for school loans. So in our situation, it's like, all right, what school am I going to?
More stresses.
Yeah, they have other things that they're worried about. But one of the bright spots that I've noticed is that kids have started to get political. And for this year, you may have more kids voting in this election than elderly, if I am not mistaken, for the first time in previous elections. Which means that you have the potential to radically change this country, because the young are the lefties. Like, in general, they tend to be to the left. I mean, these are Sanders' main supporters. And so you get the opportunity to actually have people to push for these things. So it's not like the youth in this country don't buy this. Like, they're on board for this.
Yeah.
But it's a secondary thing to actually get involved and do something about it.
And all that stuff, yeah.
But you know what would have been awesome? If they would have did this with the teachers. Like, intersectionality. So the teachers are protesting in various countries. West Virginia, I think Kentucky or Kansas or something like that. Mm-hmm. Students joining the teachers. They should have joined those teachers, because they should back the teachers up in general. But adding demands, like the Yellow Vest movement is this like 30th week or something like that. They were able to pull actual concessions. Yeah. We don't do that. Hell, God damn it. When Donald Trump closed the government down for all the time, and those people still went to work. They went to work. They weren't getting paid. if you want to show how somebody just doesn't care about your interests, or not just not cares about your interests, doesn't care about you as a human being, but will use you as a human being to get their ends. The President of the United States chose to disallow people from working. I mean, from disallowing people from being paid for the work. Meaning he expected them to go to work, but by the same token, you're not going to get paid. This is also the situation where the majority of Americans can't go paycheck to paycheck.
Right.
I mean, they can't afford to miss a paycheck, let alone 2 paychecks. And the President of the United States was being pretty cavalier and having them to go without these paychecks. That is outright disdain for the working class. But those people continue to go into work. And what's the scenario? What does it look like if they didn't go into work? What does it look like when the airports shut down because the TSA decides, if the President of the United States doesn't care about me, then I don't care about
people
this.
were saying, well, if I don't go to work, then I'm going to lose my job.
So what?
It's hard to get another job.
It's not that I don't want you to think I'm taking this flippantly. It's just they worked for like a month without pay.
Well, I know, but I guess the reasoning behind that is the alternative.
What would have happened if they would have organized, got together, and together said, I'm not doing this?
If it was like mass protesting.
Understand, the teachers in West Virginia, it was illegal for them to strike. They did it anyway. And I know you say, how is it illegal to strike? Believe it or not, there are plenty of places where it's illegal to strike. The TSA was one of them, where they're not supposed to be able to do that. But there's something to be said about rules that keep you confined within a system that is fucking you over. Meaning, if those people get together and say, yes, as an organized group, we're not doing this. The President of the United States is screwing us over. They would have literally shut the airport down. What does it look like if the airport gets shut down for a day? 2 days? Fuck it, a week? Chaos. Utter chaos.
I mean, they have flights that go down for an evening because of bad weather. And it affects
because one flight
the globe
affects tons.
Yeah.
And what does it look like for the President of the United States to be responsible for this? Meaning Donald Trump, they already disagree with him. Meaning, we don't think you should be shutting the government down for this nonsense.
Right.
They already accept it as this is his. He's owning this. And on top of that, I missed my goddamn flight. And you just see chaos all across the United States from the standpoint of flights. I guess I'm making this point that if he didn't care about you, why should you care? Like, you should acknowledge to some degree that they're screwing me over. He doesn't care. Like, there's an utter disdain about what he's doing for him to be able to do this and not care about the fact that, most of us are barely making ends meet.
So is the difference, I guess my thing is, who organizes the Yellow Vest movement?
It was, believe it or not, it was self-organizing.
Just the people come together. For
France
some
has a
reason, we
history of that
don't.
stuff.
I remember when we were in Paris, they were protesting. They were driving tractors, like the farmers were protesting.
They were bringing cows.
They were driving tractors and cows through the city.
No, they were dropping cows in the highway.
They have.
I thought it was dropping cows in the highway.
I remember them driving tractors and there were cows out there. I don't know the specifics, but I guess what I'm saying is
they were shutting it down.
They have a grand history of protesting.
French Revolution.
And so we don't have that same.
Do you realize that the United States Constitution, to some degree, is based on the French Revolution? Like, this notion of liberty and all this other stuff was based on France. We rebelled against the king.
No, I get all that. I don't need a history lesson. I guess what I'm saying is, what's making us different from them?
I think there's a few things. I think that the history, I think that's part of it. Services. The American worker is so beaten down that if they miss a day for work, like they can't, like even that thing with the air thing is like, oh God, I can't lose my job. It's hard to get a job.
Their job is too valuable.
The job is too valuable,
because
and they barely make
they
ends
don't
meet.
have support in other avenues of their life,
If
like people in Europe do in some European countries.
Bernanke, who was there before Bernanke? Greenspan. Greenspan made this argument one time where he said, the American workers being loaded down with debt, it's a good thing for the economy because it keeps them dependent upon the jobs that they're working. Meaning it keeps them able workers that aren't protesting much. Because, if you have a $30,000 in school loans, if you have all of this, hospital debt and all this other stuff, are you really going to go out and protest if you can potentially lose your job?
Nope.
But that's a sick, that's an extremely sick notion, but that's the way he was going. So if you ask them what's the difference, I think that's the difference. French, if Americans had the services that French had, like the hospital care, the educational care, like they are out there setting shit on fire for what we can't even grasp that they get in regards to their welfare state.
Yeah.
So, just saying. But either way, Jeremy Corbyn is trying to do his thing, man. National emergency. It's his Green New Deal for the UK.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess I don't see a lot of, and we gotta be honest, if it was not for the patron appreciation topic suggestion, we might not be covering this segment of climate change.
But why?
Because nobody cares.
Well, to be fair, I was potentially going to cover the Jeremy Corbyn part anyway. But why do you think this doesn't get covered all that often?
Because there's more exciting things in the media. Because it's not a pressing issue that I can see tangibly. I saw somebody in the comments saying that there's no evidence to support climate change.
Oh, that's
you know
nonsense.
what I mean? Like, well, I know that, but I guess what I'm saying is, I can't pay my rent. That's more pressing than,
yeah.
You know what I mean? Trump in the White House. That's something tangible that I can see as a threat, more so than what's going to happen 20 years. And then a lot of people don't know what climate change looks like. So I'm going to segue into another portion of the story, which is Mozambique.
Well, wait. One quick thing with Greenspan. If Greenspan is right about people can't protest and everything else because they're busy with work, that kind of lends itself to your point that, I have a bill to pay. I'm not really thinking about this climate change. What they have found is that when people earnings go up, they start to care more about the environment. Isn't that fascinating?
Because they have more fucks to give.
No, they have distance. My survivability is cared for. Like if I knew,
right, I have less stress over here.
Less stress.
So now I can stress about the bigger picture.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I don't know how my kid's gonna eat. I can't think about 20 years from now about what climate change is gonna do to my grandchildren. I gotta feed my kids right now. That's what I'm saying. That people have more fucks to give.
Yeah, that's it. This amorphous thing out there.
Yeah.
And
it's like climate change.
It's like, but my kid needs something to eat. I need to pay
That's
for
going to be
medication.
more pressing.
I need to do, yeah.
So it's not really covered. And so one of the stories that I kind of saw a little bit shared on
Mozambique thing.
On my social media was Mozambique. Of course, you guys know that that's a little small country in Africa. It is the 6th poorest country in the world. And they were hit with a cyclone in March. I think it's pronounced Ide. Killed 1,000 people, left mass homelessness. They had outbreaks of cholera. They had outbreaks of cholera. Extreme flooding. It's been catastrophic. I haven't seen any news coverage of it personally. I saw a couple of people sharing it online. But on top of that, they are now expecting... or not expecting, but Cyclone Kenneth is currently battering Mozambique and hitting them again. And we're looking at an article. Can you pull up that article for me on Mozambique?
I was trying to pull up this so we can see the thing itself.
So this is from Cyclone Ide, which was in March. So this was a couple weeks ago, but more recently...
as well, when you see this, like, look at this right here. That's reality. Like, understand what I mean. Sometimes I would say stuff like your ball hurling through space, and sometimes I show pictures of how Earth looks from Saturn, and I try to do that because I try to get people to realize that your government is a thought thing. Your family stuff. I mean, yeah, there are lines and all this other stuff for families, but oftentimes most of the things that we do aren't real. Like, you got to go to work in order to get paid, to feed yourself. You may play Xbox. You may have sex with your wife. Those things are nice, but those things are like little dramas that you kind of, culture, society, you wrap yourself in. All of that stuff goes away tomorrow with this. Like, understand those people who lived here might be poorer, but they had their own dramas. Susie was hooking up with, or Kabungo was hooking up with Matumbe, and what's her name was having a baby, and so all of these just basic dramas. So and so was going to school, whatever, and then this happens. I just want to make this point that they're just human beings, just like us. If you were born there, that would be you. I don't know. I'm fascinated seeing stuff like this because it's so extreme. Like, can you imagine if Richmond had just got wiped out that way? Like, there was a time where there was that hurricane. I don't know if you remember this. It was a major hurricane that shut down all the lights and everything else in Richmond, knocked down trees, hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
There was a power outage for like a week or two, and people had started selling water for like
I got
prices.
stuck in line at the gas station trying to get gas because they were running out of gas. I was in line for an hour with the light on trying to get gas, but I remember that.
I mean, and so think of 1,000 times over that, like just like where your government system and the thing that you know as government just shuts down, just doesn't exist. I'm sorry, close.
Sixth poorest country in the world. Yeah. Now, in line with them being the sixth poorest country in the world, in order to fix all the devastation, because they're so poor, they were granted a $118 million
From who? The IMF?
Loan from the IMF. Interest-free loan from the IMF. So, of course,
they can never pay that back.
Poor are getting poorer. If you'll scroll down from here, a loan from International Monetary Fund. Allows the African country to rebuild from climate-linked disaster, but drives the poor into debt. If you'll look right here, I think one of the things that you talked about was how the people who are suffering the most are contributing to climate change the least.
Yeah.
And now they're going to have to suffer financially. I mean, take on these massive amounts of debt.
Here you get anarchists, this sort of anarchist philosophy, this idea of holding power accountable and being very clear about whether or not you're going to create authority. This notion of, it's not just chaos. It's just this notion of people in authority tend to do bad things if you allow them to be in authority. So you need to be very clear on whether or not you want to have a hierarchical system. It's just somewhat of an analysis of how you organize your governments. One of the issues, though, is you get for stuff like this. No individual country can deal with climate change. I mean, like the United States by itself cannot deal with climate change, even though you might have only a few companies that creates most of the stuff. Think of it this way. Puerto Rico, Mozambique, all of these countries that are getting hit with these tornadoes and cyclones, Western countries are the ones where this stuff is coming out, like China. China's not a Western country, but you know what I mean. Industrialized nations, especially here.
Right here at home.
We pump that stuff out, and other places have the consequences. It's almost like you've socialized the disaster itself to all of these
disaster relief.
Yeah, the disaster relief. And so they have to deal with issues that they didn't cause and couldn't have caused because they don't have the infrastructure to cause.
Right.
Like, it's not a situation like Mozambique is not contributing to any percentage to the carbon that's in the sky. If you want to talk about animal agriculture and if you want to talk about oil and gas, Mozambique is not.
Right.
It's not on the list.
One of the things I like that she said, she used the term climate debt trap. This is Sarah Jane Clifton. She's a director of Jubilee Debt Campaign. She said it was a shocking indictment of the international community that Mozambique had to borrow money to cope with the disaster. She says what's happening to Mozambique is going to happen to other places more frequently unless there is a more systematic approach for tackling debt problems of poor countries. There is going to be a climate debt trap spiraling out of control.
The problem, there are two problems. One problem is, like we said, this notion that they didn't call something that they're having to deal with. The second problem is attributing it to climate change. Like, climate change is so amorphous. Like, you're in this situation of saying, all right, we got hit with something. Probability-wise, we can look at the stats and show statistically that this is most likely a climate change thing, but...
Well, let me read you what she said from out of the article.
Wait, one last point. The other nations, the industrialized nations, they're never, I can't say never, but the industrialized nations have a certain responsibility to pay for, or should have, damages that is caused by their economic activity and their economic gains. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
Like, if, the United States was able to accrue X amount, Britain X amount, China X amount, and all of these countries were able to get this running head start using these fossil fuels, and then other smaller nations come up and be like, well, wait a minute, what about us? We're like, whoa, we can't keep using these things. And not just can't keep using these things, countries are taking an L for it. Like Puerto Rico was taking a hit for, does there need to be an overarching international body that deals with issues of climate, seeing as it can't be dealt with by individual nations alone? Does that overarching body become, or have a danger of becoming, a governmental or political system itself? That's where shit hits fan. Answer that one. And think about it. Like, that's a fascinating question. The European Union started off as coal and steel. It's like kind of like a cartel. And as it kind of went on, it morphed into this kind of political body of sorts, where by hook or by crook, they were able to get these other countries, many of which, if you ask them today, would not want to be a part of it, to sign up to a political organization. Does an organization that is set up to deal with climate change, meaning there's certain rules and policies that would have to be enacted in the various countries, and this body would have to have force of law in order to push those things through, meaning it passes something and it's also passed in the other countries that it's in, does that not make it a political body?
Right.
Are you on board for it being a political body?
Yeah, that's a scary, I don't know, it has to be, doesn't it? I don't know how you get around that.
I don't know how you get around that either. I mean, if you have treaties, you can have a treaty, but, who enforces the treaty?
What happens if you violate the treaty?
Yeah. All of this stuff up to this point, like the Paris Accords and everything else, it's just wishful thinking. It's just countries can or may or may not. But we're talking about something where the world says, look, we have a problem. And this problem is our climate, our environment is going to go to pot. This is a worldwide environmental hazard, all hands on deck. This is like a wartime situation with the world. We need to, And a decision is made that says, all right, well, we need force of law, because if there's not force of law, you risk killing all of us. Like, you can make a justification for it just based on, if the world goes to pot because we're not attending to climate, then one country is fucking over the rest, meaning all of us need to be on board. Kind of like a rule set that we create for ourselves within the context of a country. Right. Like we don't shoot each other in the country. We don't slap each other. There are rules. And those rules are necessary to ensure that we don't die. Like, I can kind of see that, but this notion of a political body gets a little, should the UN have force of law in some cases? And what does it mean for force of law? If it's a sovereign, does it mean that it's sovereign over your own laws? Like, this gets a little dicey in regards to how do you solve this. I suppose you can have a bunch of countries that are kind of loosely working with one another to do it. I suppose so. But
all right, so in the comments, somebody said something about climate change not being, there's no proof. And even you talked about, a direct link between the two. But in the article, they say that while there's no study that has specifically measured how climate change affects the likelihood of these cyclones, global warming is known to intensify certain tropical storm effects. There is absolutely no doubt that when there is a tropical cyclone like this, Then, because of climate change, the rainfall intensities are higher. Dr. Frederick Otto from the University of Oxford told BBC, and also because of sea level rise, the resulting flooding is more intense than it would be without human-induced climate change.
Essentially, it's worse than what it would be.
Right. And then they do speak to, like what you said, the part, I like, this is the debt campaign manager again. She says, part of the overall problem with climate change is the problem of injustice. The people who didn't cause the problem are typically those facing the worst impact, said Richards. To ask them, the poorest, the most vulnerable people, to then take a loan for the loss and damage resulting from climate change is just an outrageous doubling down of the injustice of climate change.
No, it is. This is kind of what I mean, though. It's, you know what it's like? It's like seeing a homeless person on the street. That's what it's like. Ultimately, you come out of your house, you walk past them, you may avert your eyes, you may give them $1, whatever, but that person is living on the street, and society allows him to live on the street. You have a city council, you have a mayor, you have a governor, all this stuff, but ultimately, it's a failure of the society allows it. Part of the reason it allows it because it's anonymous. Nobody has an individual thing of saying, it is my personal responsibility to do this, so nobody gets tasked with the responsibility of making sure that guy is not homeless, with the exception of government. But government gets dicey because people can't make up their minds. Climate change is like this. So you would have somewhere like this gets hit. Now, the scientists around the world says climate change intensified the likelihood and intensity of that storm.
Right.
But from a political sense, what country is going to say, okay, we'll step up to pay for that? None. Because the countries
we'll give them a loan.
We'll give them a loan, right. You can make a buck off of it.
That's how we're going to help. We're going to give them a loan.
But we do our own kids that way. So why wouldn't we do
another country that way?
And also understand, the IMF is a political instrument also. Part of the CIA's asymmetric warfare was using the IMF and those type of things to get countries into debt traps where you can pawn the resources or essentially screw them over with loans, make their economy scream based on the loans that you give them. The IMF is a tool of the U.S. foreign policy.
Yeah. I got a super chat really quick to read from Darren Levy. Thank you, Darren. Darren says, Extinction Rebellion is being covered positively by mainstream media and the EU, UK establishment, while they ignore their own people, completely opposite to the Yellow Vests.
That is weird. In fact, I have, we can delve into that real quick, kind of as a tidbit. The Yellow Vests have been protesting for, almost 30 weeks. Mm. And in the protesting of the 30 weeks, they've been getting brutalized. Like, beaten, hit, shot, tear gas, pepper sprayed, brutalized by Macron's cops. If you didn't know any better, you would thought you were looking at Ukraine. When the Ukraine had their revolution and the United States and Western powers had supported the groups in order to kind of break them apart so they can get close to the Russian border, if you were looking at that, the Western media cheered that on. The Western media was like, yes, those fucking Russians, get them out there. We're going to get, and then go so far as to say, we're going to put Ukraine in NATO, which means that NATO, the organization that wasn't supposed to move, is now going to be on the Russian border. Now, imagine an organization that was hostile called, Axis Against America, and that ended up, and Mexico joins that organization, and then Canada joins that organization. What do you think the response of the United States would be? The United States, it would be uncalled for. We wouldn't stand for it. Right. We were willing to go to nuclear war over Cuba. So let's be very clear with where the United States stands on that stuff. It's like, no, we're not going to tolerate this taking place. So, the Yellow Vests has been coming out doing that week after week after week. 70% approval rating, meaning 70% of the French population agrees with them. When you can't get 70% to agree on any fucking thing, and you got 70% approval, which gets across how the public is viewing Macron. And little to no press. You don't hear this in American media at all. And I've been sitting every so often at the clinics. You're watching TV. Everything about Trump that you ever want to know, this never comes up. I guarantee you, if this was in the Ukraine or if this was Venezuela, it would be on TV round the clock.
Yeah.
but it's France. We want to downplay it. We don't want the media to be talking about this. Let's just move along. Macron is in a situation where he's been driving this thing, talking to the public, and he's been having these town halls all throughout France. The Yellow Vests, upon hearing what Macron was willing to offer, essentially was like, no, we want you to resign. That's what we want. That's the only thing that we want at this point. So
that's our demand.
That's our demand. We want you to leave. We want you to leave. All right, so Julian Assange is next.
Yes.
One of the subscribers, or one of my patrons,
Andrew Smith, submitted a suggestion. He wants an update on what's going on with Julian Assange.
Yes. All right. And let's see. What's one of these screens? There we go. We're going to take call-ins after...
sorry, go ahead.
We're going to take call-ins after the next one. The next one is on Sanders, and that one is probably going to get a lot of people who want to give their opinion on that. Yeah, they're going to have their 2 cents. All right, so let's jump to this.
Wait, before we jump, I have a super chat from I Am Siler. Thank you. I Am Siler says, Yellow Vesters are protesting green energy taxes.
Yes. Ish. Started that way. So, when it first started, Macron did a few things. Macron cut taxes on plutocrats, top 1%. And then he did something with pensions where he hit people again at the bottom using pensions. And then he increased taxes on gas to make it would be like us paying $7 a gallon. Mm-hmm. Like, it was obscene. And so he's essentially given a tax cut and then balancing that tax cut, meaning environmental policy, on the backs of the people at the bottom of the income scale. So people who are delivery drivers, Uber drivers, like anybody that was doing any kind of transportation, which is essentially everybody, gets hit with that fuel tax, which is why those people were pissed off. This is kind of like when in Tsar's Russia, when they first started their strikes, it started as bread. And then after a while it became, no, we want your head. Mm. Like it's that, like, strikes progress from where they are. They don't necessarily stand still. So it started off as a fuel tax, but then it started to be a motley crew of various things. Fuel tax, they were protesting. At one point, they were talking about Frexit, France being a part of the European Union. They were talking about the pension issue, the environmental tax. They were talking about Macron itself being in office, meaning they wanted him to resign. Taxes, this cost of living being too high. It was a list of things, but all of it boiled down to our living is too hard. Yeah. It needs to be easier. And this is not an act of God. This is an act of policy. And the government is to blame. And so they blame Macron. Like, keep in mind, they were having strikes from the time Macron got in office to now. Like the Yellow Vests might have started to organize themselves, but they were having these protests. Like I said, when you and I were there, they were having protests. So they never really stopped doing the protesting in France, particularly when Macron got in office. They also called him arrogant. They catered to the rich. Like, they had a very, he was snobbish, and he was smug as all hell. When NATO goes in and destroys Libya, and it gets to the point where this country that was vastly rich from oil revenue and stuff like that is now selling slaves. And Macron goes to Libya, and where he should be, have to answer for this, because France was one of those countries that was gung-ho for bombing Libya with the United States, Britain, France, and the UK, the triplets. He goes to France, he says, they're Africans. And he's essentially blaming Africans for selling slaves. Like, it's the Africans that are selling slaves. As if there wasn't a situation that preceded the fact that the Africans were selling slaves. Like, you bombing the country into the fucking Stone Age. Right. So, like, it's a smug SOB. Whether or not his government can survive this level of protest, I don't know. Him going through the country trying to get people to, it's like, all right, I'm listening, etc. Part of that was to bring down a little bit of support for the Yellow Vests, to try to give at least the impression that he's listening. Any politician would do it. Most politicians would do it. With any kind of political acumen. I don't know how much it would help. He still seems like a smug SOB to me. And hopefully his ass gets, take an L, lose, fail, politically taken out on a stretcher. Politically.
Yeah.
I don't want anything to happen to him.
Not figuratively.
Yeah, literally. Yeah. Just figuratively. All right, so let's talk about Assange. I just wanted to make that part clear. It did start off as one thing. I am Siler saying that because he's trying to make the point of environmental, etc. The issue wasn't the environmental tax. The issue is that they were trying to balance it on the backs of the people there. Like I said, if you raise the wages of people, at a certain point they started looking around saying, hey, maybe we need to do something with this environment. I'm taking okay. So it wasn't necessarily just the environment thing. It was the fact that he was doing this on their backs. And then eventually it became a ton of other issues that bothered them. All right, so we all remember this, and I hate seeing this. But let's take a look. Okay. Okay, I don't hate seeing that because I don't know what this is. But, and it's not pertinent to what we're talking about. Julian Assange legal battles have only just begun. So, as you know, Julian Assange taken out of the embassy. He had been there for nearly 7 years. And being taken out of the embassy, right here.
Embassy by British police.
He's holding a book.
Oh my God, look at him.
Wow. A Vidal.
The beard, I have not seen him looking like that. Clearly not being...
And he's screaming, resist.
UK must resist. That's what he was shouting.
Resist. Now, what they're trying to do is extradite him to the United States. Julian Assange, for the last 7 years, has said that there's a warrant for him. And they said, oh, you're being a conspiracy theorist. Oh, there's no way the United States is doing it. Oh, what do you know? There was. And they let the cat out the bag early on. So we knew that there was a warrant out for like they were looking for him. They're not getting him for espionage. What they're trying to get him for is him being a hacker. Which they're trying to say that there was something that he was doing with Manning. Here, the problem with this is Manning isn't talking. Manning is saying I'm not talking. And Manning would be the person to talk. And he's not a hacker. He's just a publisher. And Barr, even in that press conference when he was talking about the Mueller report, was very clear that it is not illegal to post documents. It is only illegal to hack those documents.
Can we scroll down? This article, I thought, now you are much more or well-versed in the history of everything that's taken place with Julian Assange. I am not. So when I read this article, it was very interesting. One, they do say that he is now in Belmarsh prison, but that's not the part that was new to me. They talk about where is he now, and the link for this will be in the description box if it's not already. But when he talk about what are the charges that Assange is facing,
it's just one.
Well, there are a bunch of different things that they brought up in this article.
Go for it.
Potential. And these are, potential charges.
Stack more charges on them when they get them back in the States.
Here's where things get tricky. In the UK, Assange was wanted for skipping bail back in 2012. Days before he entered the embassy, the country's top court upheld a decision to extradite the Australian to Sweden over allegations of sexual assault and rape.
Yeah, but Sweden dropped those charges.
The violation of those bail conditions remained throughout the almost 7 years Assange was squirreled into in his diplomatic bolt hole.
Despite the fact that those charges were dropped.
And so in the hours after his eviction, a judge declared Assange guilty and ordered him to appear at Southwark Crown Court for sentencing at a later date. So for that charge, he's facing up to 12 months. Then there's, of course, the one that we're more familiar with, the American action. The UK stunned the world with this revelation. Assange had also been arrested in relation to a provisional extradition request from the United States of America. Well, we weren't shocked about that.
No.
Shortly after, the U.S. Justice Department unsealed a 2018 indictment for one count of conspiracy to commit computer intrusion with Chelsea Manning in 2012. The charge carries a maximum penalty of 5 years in prison.
Now, what's important here is, right here, notice it's not espionage.
Like conspiracy to commit computer.
The reason, and that's important, the reason it's not espionage is because if you were going to charge WikiLeaks or Julian Assange with espionage, you also have to charge the Washington Post, the New York Times, the Guardian.
How far is that going to go?
Yeah. Part of the reason that Obama didn't go after Assange was for that very specific reason, because he thought it was going to be a slippery slope for all press. Mm-hmm. Obama had, but, the sad part about this is, good luck trying to prove hacking on this. There's no way. But the sad part is the fact that they couldn't prove it still 7 years of his life. Like, if he gets out tomorrow, he gets extradited to the United States, the judge on day one throws it out.
Then what? It's still 7 years of his life.
7 years. Like that's the irony of this. Like Julian Assange was concerned that there was an extradition warrant. There was, but it's possible that it's possible that he would have been better off dealing with it if it was something that was nonsense. But he didn't know. Like oftentimes when you're in chess or life, the threat is more dangerous than the actual thing. Like it's like if you know it's cancer, you can deal with it. If you don't know what it is, you have, oh my God, I could be.
It could be alive. 1,000 different things. Yeah.
So in his case, it's like I have no idea what America has at their disposal in regards to coming after me. They can have me fucking shot for all I know. So he said, no, I'm not going. And then Sweden drops the charges. And then Britain says, oh yeah, we're still going to keep you for skipping bail. And it's like, well, I didn't skip bail. I came for asylum that I got, by the way.
Yeah.
This is not a situation where I just said, fuck off. No, I was concerned that they were going to extradite me to the United States. I got political asylum. Ecuador gave me political asylum. It's legit. Ecuador is a real country, like any other real country. They gave me asylum. And now you're saying that because I went to get asylum, that you're saying that I'm somehow skipping bail.
Now that's for the Sweden case.
That's for the British case.
Oh, okay.
Like for Sweden, he's invited these guys. His only condition was, just tell me you're not going to extradite me, and they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
Which means that Sweden, Britain, all of these lapdogs of the U.S. politics. Sad. I watched the debate yesterday with George Galloway and this other British cat, and he was like, his argument was Britain or the UK or Europe needs to have its own foreign policy. That was his thing. And I was like, and he's making this impassioned argument about how, America's off the rails. America, what we've seen, like from finances and military, they push us around. Like, when they decide to go off sanctions with Iran, all of a sudden we're stuck with having to do with it. Like he made all these arguments. This is the same thing though. These guys are lapdogs.
Yeah.
Think about what's taking place. The United States in this country says, I want you to send over this guy who's publishing documents that we didn't like. What are you putting him on? And then it says, we promise not to kill him. And Ecuador says, okay. And then Ecuador gets billions of dollars, $10 billion. And then Ecuador complains, well, Julian Assange was saying that we were doing the stuff for the money. Well, you were doing the stuff for the money. And then they smear him. Like they've gotten to the point where they've been taking like video footage because Julian Assange said they were spying. He said they were monitoring me. And then they come up with, and then Ecuadorian government says, and he said that we were spying on him for the United States government. And then they release all of the stuff that they had been spying on him with.
Yeah.
Like, trying to make him look bad. They're like having his underwear or something like that. And they're like, look at him, look at him, look at him. Because if you could smear him and make him look bad, then you can say, okay, you can make people turn off about the fact that you're going after somebody who's a journalist.
Yeah. I don't know. It looks like there's a lot of fuckery because Sweden has actually reopened that case.
No way.
Yeah. This was a comment that, where is the mouse? Oh, there we go. This was a Twitter comment from one of the Swedish, I think, Elizabeth Massey Fritz. She says, we're going to do everything we possibly can to get the Swedish police investigation reopened so that Assange can be extradited to Sweden and prosecuted for rape. No rape victim should have to wait 9 years to see justice be served. This was the prosecutor.
Catches, is it a rape victim? I gotta be honest, I don't buy this. This just seems too setup-ish.
Yeah.
It's like the United States, all of it just so happens the person who the United States really, really wants to get their hands on.
Well, they do say that one of the women who accused him of rape called for the investigation to be reopened.
That doesn't mean anything.
So,
I mean, like, we're talking about political actors. And in these political actors, governments that murder people on a daily basis, that, have CIA thing where they're paying terrorists in order to destabilize governments, when they're paying kill squads. Do we honestly believe that there will be an issue dumping $50,000 into somebody's pocket, $100,000, $1 million, and saying, go scream? Like, no, that doesn't, yes, I'm cynical. This is international politics where the United States desperately, the intelligence services desperately want to get their hands on this person. And would I be shocked that they would do something like this in order to do it? No, I don't. So no, I don't automatically assume that rape is correct.
Okay.
I don't buy it.
So they're talking about, will he be extradited? And if so, where to? So as of right now, of course, the United States is the only one that's given an official request for extradition.
Yeah.
Extradition requests to the UK from outside the EU are governed by Part 2 of the Extradition Act of 2003. Once an extradition hearing has been set, it will not be for the UK courts to determine culpability. A judge would only determine whether the U.S. request satisfies the dual criminality legal requirement, meaning that the alleged crime is illegal in both countries.
Oh, this is interesting.
The judge would also consider if granting extradition would breach his human rights.
Right there, that one too.
If satisfied that the claim meets procedural conditions, the case would be sent to the Home Secretary for a final decision on ordering the extradition.
He needs to make the anal rape argument. No,
Well,
and I'm being serious.
he's in Belmarsh now, and they said that he was supposed to be allowed 3 1-hour visits a week,
Yeah.
but his lawyers are saying that they've only been able to meet with him one time since he's been there.
You know, for the longest
That was
time,
last
they didn't even
Friday.
let him meet his lawyers.
Yeah.
Like he had been
Well,
there for.
apparently he's still being restricted.
Well, right, yeah, but they at the very least let him meet his lawyers. Yeah, he's in hostile territory. I mean, to be fair, he had been in hostile territory before, but he is definitely in hostile territory. This gets interesting though. I mean,
He's in
if
prison,
it's not for the UK courts, which judge? Is it an EU judge? And if it's an EU judge, it's possible that the EU is not going to take the same perspective as the UK. Did you know when the European Union was being formed, the United States wanted Britain to be a part of it? The reason the United States wanted Britain to be a part of it is because I always say Britain is the darker, or is where the darker shadow of Britain. We're like further to the right than Britain. But for the most part, we're similar. The countries are very similar in regards to the bearings. We wanted somebody who was more like us inside the European Union as opposed to France, who was less on Americans' bandwagon. And so, you know, I guess my point is this. If it's from somewhere within the EU, it's possible that they'll be less hawkish on this point, and be more in regards to more fair, as opposed to a UK judge who's going to be in the pocket of
Yeah.
the UK, if that makes sense. So we'll see. I mean, the UK is part of the European Union, and I know they have weird extradition laws with some of this stuff. So maybe. I know the UK, like there was this big issue about being able to deport somebody, and people were getting angry because it was like, are you telling me we can't deport somebody from my own country? And the answer was no. The European Union to some degree makes a choice, meaning they had to keep that guy in prison. They couldn't get rid of him.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
See, between the U.S. and this one, I think I may have misspoken, said the case was reopened, but it is pending. You know what I mean? Like they're reviewing, right, for Sweden. So potentially Sweden, everybody want to get their hands on Julian Assange.
Yeah. Good luck trying to make the hacking charge. Because unless they're adding something else, that's going to depend almost entirely on Chelsea Manning. How else would they know?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you need some human element to say, yes, I was working. Because otherwise, why did they keep Chelsea Manning? If Julian Assange is already in custody, why are they having Manning? And the lawyers for Manning even came out saying, you need to let my client go. Why, you know, you got Assange. Why do you have him? Well, the reason they're holding Manning is because they're trying to get him to flip on Assange. If they're trying to make this hacking thing stick, then the only person who's going to know is Manning. Which means they're trying to break Manning to get him to flip on Assange. Right. So that's what it looks like anyway. That's what it appears, at least to me.
Well, that's our update.
You want to give
Julian Assange
update for just
our spiel?
Yeah.
All right. So we covered.
Better than I do, so I want to hear.
We covered Nathaniel Farrier wanted us to talk about climate change. So if you're just joining us and you're a patron, make sure you check out that. That was our first topic that we covered. And we also talked about Andrew Smith, the patron, wanted us to, of course, do this Julian Assange update. So these are our topics that were submitted from our patrons. If you are just joining us, this is the weekly patron appreciation / AKA BKA, also known as, better known as Contributor Appreciation, Patron Appreciation. It goes by different names, but essentially this is the weekly show that is designed specifically to do just that, give appreciation for everyone who contributes to this channel and supports the channel. In that vein, there is a post that goes up on the Patron platform once a week that says, hey, don't forget, Sunday's show is coming up. What would you like for us to cover? And so we are drawing from those topics to fuel today's show and every weekly show. So thank you for everybody that submitted. If you are not a patron, unfortunately, you only have access to the live videos. This is going to be taken down and pushed up exclusively on the Patron platform. And then also, the last couple of weeks, we've been telling you all that there is a new Facebook exclusive only, members only, private content, secret content page. And so if you're contributing by a means outside of Patreon, do reach out to us and let us know that you want to get the exclusive content, because just since you're not giving through Patreon doesn't mean that you shouldn't have access to this kind of stuff. And so we are trying to figure out somewhere to put that. For right now, it's in a Facebook page, a Facebook group. So send an email that should be down in the description box below, and we will give you access to that. So if you are contributing, just let us know. But yeah, this is the weekly appreciation show. Yeah, that's it. That's my spiel.
That's not bad.
That's pretty good.
That's not bad. That's not bad at all.
If you're not a patron, shame on you. No, if you're not a patron, consider being a patron. A commitment of as little as $1 a month gets you all that exclusive access that we talked about, and that's the weekly patron show. Usually when he goes to like DC to do radio shows, or like yesterday when we went to the Bernie campaign, we'll do some posts there just to give kind of like an inside view and that kind of thing.
Yeah, we're trying to give extra content.
Yeah.
I have to be honest, I tend to anything that I do, I tend to like to put out. So it's always harder for me to put stuff on Patreon. But I try to give additional content throughout the course of the week. And definitely this show goes like 3 hours at least. So this goes up. There is one thing that I may do to this is get a virtual assistant to cut the shows. But beyond that,
we'll see.
Yeah.
But if you're a patron and you're late, make sure you log into your account afterwards to check out everything that we've covered so far. Also, after this next topic, which we think that you guys will be very opinionated about, we are going to follow another patron's suggestion of having call-ins during a patron appreciation show. So we'll give you the number for that soon. We're not going to give it now because if you call, we're not going to answer. Nobody going to pick up. But we'll give you that number. Mark the Storm.
You're dropping in a patron.
He is a patron. Suggested last week that we do call-ins, and so I don't know if we're going to do it every week, but at least today
on big topics
we're going to have a call-in session.
Yeah, on big topics. All right.
So yeah,
let's talk about superdelegates.
Oh wait. So someone Cozy just said, I just started the video. Will it stay up? No. Just to reiterate, if you are a patron, you will have access to the full video. But if you're not a patron, this is going to be just live. This is what we do every week. So after the live showing, it's going to be taken down and available exclusively to patrons. If you're not a patron, you can still get it. Yes, get on board. But not everybody can contribute monetarily. It's so share, like, subscribe. Just come back and watch the videos.
It's like a church service.
Make sure you're subscribed too.
And I understand why. So oftentimes when I first started this channel, if for the most part you get used to, I guess, funding from YouTube, the videos and so forth. But YouTube is a fickle mistress. And there are plenty of videos that get either demonetized or they change the funding mechanism. It's like it's a sketchy system to be dependent upon. It's like you're dependent upon something for your well-being that you have no control over at all. Like you have no agency in the process within your channel. So that's the reason why I push for the Patreon or the PayPal support, because, it's like at the very least it's something that I trust my audience a little bit more than I trust YouTube. So if I'm being blunt about it. So even $1 helps, like my wife said. Of course, more than $1 helps even more, but even $1 helps. So let's talk about superdelegates. Do you know what superdelegates are?
Superdelegate, this whole Superdelegate smorgasbord of shit, it confuses me. And I think it confuses most people because it's like, I think, was it last year that they had the big push of, we're going to get rid of superdelegates? And there was a change that happened. Well, what was the change? Did they get rid of superdelegates?
Well,
no.
see, Sanders' camp was pushing for, 60%. They wanted a 60% reduction. We want you to cheat 60% less. 60% less. And Sanders was okay with that, cheating me 60% less. Because look, superdelegates is fundamentally rigging the system. Part of the reason that Deborah Wasserman-Schultz came out and said, in fact, I can find the video. It's a famous video. And she says, well, superdelegates are in order to keep the grassroots out of the party. Now, that's an interesting... could you put in Deborah Wasserman-Schultz and superdelegates? It's just in YouTube. Because I got to show that video. Yeah.
You got to click on it.
All right, yeah, she comes out to superdelegates. But now, the reason why I find this to be important is because if you remember, the DCCC now has a policy where it's trying to stop...
What's the DCCC?
What do you mean?
What's DCCC stand for?
Oh, Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee.
Okay.
Didn't think I knew that, did you?
Well, not everybody use that. Sometimes I go places and they use acronyms and I'm like, I gotta look that shit up later. What the hell does that mean?
I
want to make sure that everybody else knows what that is. I know you knew what it was. I wanted you to tell everybody else that didn't.
I'm frowning and playing you boo on you, sir. All right, so let's see. Right here, I think this is it. Maybe. No. Where is it?
What are we looking for? We're looking
Jake
for...
Tapper. Actually, let's put
Debbie
in...
Wasserman-Schultz talking about superdelegates.
And Jake Tapper.
Somebody, I'm going to the comments.
Excuse me. Because this would be a bit...
Oh, Pat said, I hate having to pay bribes for access.
Bribes for access?
I think that's like for doing Patreon.
Oh.
I guess I kind of feel like...
I'm not responding to that. I'm sorry, I'm not responding to that.
Well, it's once a week. You do like 20 shows a week.
You don't have to...
This is specifically patron appreciation.
I would prefer you not to
okay.
justify it. I mean, because it's not something to be justified. It's either you contribute or you don't. If you don't, keep it moving. There are plenty of shows that are absolutely free. So, yeah, that doesn't need to be defended. Let's see.
Choctaw Warrior says superdelegates are designed to confuse people. If they're succeeding in my case, because I don't understand, and it's gotten more complicated.
Well, it's
2
not
percentage points. The biggest.
Exactly what was available during the primaries in Iowa and in New Hampshire. The unpledged delegates are a separate category. The only thing available on the ballot in a primary and a caucus is the pledged delegates, those that are tied to the candidate that they are pledged to support, and they receive a proportional number of delegates going into our convention. Unpledged delegates exist really to make sure that party leaders and elected officials don't have to be in a position where they are running against grassroots activists.
That's it.
As a Democratic Party, going
ding.
Going into our convention. Unpledged delegates exist really to make sure that party leaders and elected officials don't have to be in a position where they are running against grassroots activists. We are, as a Democratic Party, really highlight and emphasize inclusiveness and diversity at our convention, and so we want to give every opportunity to grassroots activists
That's literally the
and
opposite
diverse,
of what you just
committed
said.
Democrats to be able to participate, attend, and be a delegate at the convention. And so we separate out those unpledged delegates to make sure that there isn't competition between them.
I'm not sure that answer would satisfy an
Yeah.
anxious.
Any fucking
I love Tapper's answer. Tapper's answer is awesome because Tapper's like, you just said that you're keeping superdelegates in order to make sure people who are running from the grassroots don't get into the party, that your incumbents to some degree are safe in this sense, or that your incumbent is safe. Like, is that right? No, I'm saying that wrong. The superdelegates for president. Yeah, we're running in order to prevent grassroots. So we don't want candidates who are not part of the clique running and we want to prevent them from running. So we have so many superdelegates that are already supporting somebody, we can kind of edge this person out. That's such an odd thing to say. It's one thing if you say superdelegates are there to ensure that if a weak candidate, like you can just lie. Just lie. Well, superdelegates are there so we can have the most electable candidate. So when Hillary Clinton is running against Bernie Sanders, we can select Hillary Clinton because she's the most electable. Oh, she lost. She lost. She failed.
It's a lot of double talk.
So this is the change. And the reason why I'm showing this, the DCCC is doing something similar. The DCCC is putting sanctions on any vendor that works with the grassroots campaign. So if you have your incumbents, they're trying to protect their incumbents. So they are essentially literally saying any group or any service vendor that works with a grassroots candidate to take down an incumbent, you will not get any services with the party. You can no longer work with the Democratic Party. That's amazing. So in the vein of we want to prevent our candidates from having to run against these grassroots
shenanigans,
they also take it to the second level of DCCC, meaning members coming into the House of Representatives to try to stop grassroots from taking down their incumbents also. This is not just one, like this is an anti-Democratic Party calling itself the Democratic Party. So, so here are the new changes. The rules are basically this. For the first round, delegates are tethered. They call them, I think they call them attached delegates or something to that effect, or automatic delegates. But think of it this way. For the first round, superdelegates don't exist. So if your candidate gets 51%, they win outright. Done. Nothing else to see here. I want to thank you all for bringing me to the show. Let's go fuck up Donald Trump. That's where you're at. If you get 49%, not so much. Not so much. At that point, you go to round 2. And when you go to round 2, all of those delegates that didn't exist before pop back into existence, and they go wherever they want to go.
Right.
So you could have all these delegates attached to one candidate, and all of them just go to another candidate if you wanted to.
So one of our patrons, this is a patron topic. We're doing good today.
Yep,
Chris G wants to know what happens if Bernie gets 45%, which is less than that 51 that you just explained to us.
Oh, wait. There's one more rule. I'm thinking of this. If one of the candidates drop out, so let's say Cory Booker is not going to give any delegates. So if Cory Booker drops out, those delegates,
2 delegates go to?
Go where they want. They go wherever they want.
They just pick themselves?
Yeah.
Or the DNC picks
No.
go?
They choose. The delegates choose.
They're like, I like Elizabeth Warren.
At that point, the candidates will probably be trying to schmooze to get those delegates onto their side. Isn't that wild? But those are the rules.
That's gross.
Those are the rules. Essentially, first round, if the candidate takes it outright, 51%, done. Call it a day. In fact, I can even give you the number of votes that they're estimating that is going to be required to win the first round.
Oh, yeah, we did see that number somewhere.
So they're expecting
a majority of all 4,500.
So they're estimating they're going to be 3,768 total pledged delegates, with the majority being 1,885. If they get 1,885, they won. I mean, this is an estimate, but they'd outright win.
I have an interjection. Trudy says no. 51% triggers SD's right to vote first round.
51%? What do you mean 51%? No, it's
That's
plurality.
Trudy Super Chat says no. 51% triggers SD's right to vote.
That is 51%. That's more of the plurality. What am I missing?
Trudy, comment again. I'll
because
comment for some clarity. I'll be keeping an eye out.
That doesn't really
for
make
your
sense.
follow-up.
You're essentially saying the person wins with 51%, but they still have to go into superdelegates? That doesn't make sense.
Okay, go ahead. Finish what you're reading. I'm sorry.
All right,
I didn't want to miss
right
our
here.
Super Chat.
So, as a result, the party made a significant change for 2020. Superdelegates will no longer vote on the first ballot at the convention unless there is no doubt about the outcome. To win on the first ballot, the frontrunner must secure the majority of the pledged delegates. That's 51%. Available during the nominating contests, leading up to the Democratic Convention. We estimate 3,768 total pledged delegates, with the majority being 1,885. Now, if you do the math, that's 51%. That's one more than right, the
majority.
That's majority. If the frontrunner has fewer than 1,885 delegates, the pledged delegate vote will lead to a contested convention. It will be less because it would be less than 51%. Just nailing that down. On subsequent ballots, all delegates will be unpledged. Essentially, after that, free range. Those delegates can go to whoever they want. At the bottom part, there appears to be some provision for any candidate who withdraws to release their delegates prior to the convention vote. These formally pledged delegates will be allowed to vote as they wish on the first ballot. If a frontrunner can secure 1,885 of the pledged and formally pledged delegates, they can still win on the first ballot.
All right, Trudy added 51% of regular delegates means it is uncontested, but 51% of regulars isn't 51% of total.
Oh, I see.
Thank you for that, Trudy.
I see. Okay,
unless it is contested.
But keep in mind, we're talking about total, like we're talking about totals where superdelegates don't get to vote. Our point is, the very first round, if you can take it with the 51%, if you can win the majority, that's it, you win. If not, superdelegates exist. Like my biggest point to people beforehand, where they were celebrating the superdelegates thing, I was like, but they haven't gone anywhere.
Yeah.
Like you're trying to
they're just back there.
They're back
so
there.
You need them for later.
You were trying to get rid of 60%. I think you're trying to get ring it 60% less. And they just said, all right, we'll just get rid of them for the first round. Okay, that sounds great, because you never have a first round, except for this year, where you have literally 20 candidates on the ballot. And it is infinitely foreseeable that you could end up in a second round.
Trudy is telling you that you're wrong. Unless she's saying, no, it's not, that's wrong. Unless, Trudy, hold that, because we're going to have call-in soon.
What am I missing? I'm looking directly at the rules.
She's saying unless it's contested.
Unless what's contested?
She's still commenting. But we'll
wait, I don't know what you're talking about.
I can only tell you as quick as she's typing.
I'm reading it right here. We estimate there will be 3,768 total pledged delegates, with the majority being 1,885, which makes sense because that would be 51%. If the front runner has fewer than 1,885 delegates, the pledged delegate vote will lead to a contested convention. The contested convention will go to a second round, meaning the superdelegates will be free to vote whoever they want. On subsequent ballot, all delegates become unpledged.
Okay.
And superdelegates will also be able to vote. I don't know what am I missing. A majority of 4,532 delegates will be needed to secure the nomination. Given the large field, front-runner calendar, and a contested convention is by no means an unlikely outcome. I mean, I put this here, now also put the rules themselves. I mean,
down below.
Yeah, I put both of these down below.
Yeah, it's very confusing. When I try to, I still don't fully wrap my head around it.
They use a lot of legalese
and a lot of fuckery.
And the PDF, this one is a little bit more straightforward. But right here, unpledged delegates, better known as superdelegates, will make up 17%. That is still a large chunk. That's almost 20%. That's
Party is calling them now automatic delegates.
Yeah, because I think they're trying to say they're tethered to the state.
Right, based on the fact that these people are made delegates to the convention based on their position within the party.
So think of it as Howard Dean. Howard Dean is a good example. So Howard Dean was Vermont. Howard Dean votes for Hillary Clinton despite Sanders blowing Hillary Clinton out in Vermont. Now, under this model, Howard Dean will be forced to vote with Vermont for the first round with whoever wins Vermont. If that makes sense. Like, I think that's what they're calling them automatic delegates in this case, that they're just locked on. You and I were having the conversation of, is there a difference between the being not existing in the first round or being attached to wherever they are? I don't know if there's a difference. Either way, superdelegates for the very first round are inconsequential. Let's be very clear. Very first round. Inconsequential. If it goes to a second round, they are back in force. Now, what's his name's question was, what do we think happens if Sanders gets 45%? What I think is going to happen is that the media is going to do what they did last time, and they're going to ask, hey, if this goes to second round, who are you going to vote for? And they're going to show that on this big screen, so when people are, talking about thinking about their voting and everything else, that is still going to be in their minds. I don't think they're going to get rid of that. I could be wrong. Also, if it goes to the second round, Sanders' position in this weakens.
Because they're just going to jump on the bandwagon of the Democratic.
Especially if there's a lot of corporate Democrats.
Yeah.
If there's... personally, I want Tulsi Gabbard on the stage because I don't think that hurts Sanders. If that makes sense. Like, I think that pulls him to the left. And I think delegates who may go for Tulsi may also go for Sanders. So this doesn't necessarily bother me too much. But my concern is, in that second round, those people are not chained to anybody. And if you have a corporate candidate, say like a Biden, with those delegates, just go to Biden, regardless of what the public wants. Meaning, it becomes clear that the public says, yes, we want weed legalized. Biden is like, I'm not on board for that. Yes, we want Medicare. I'm not on board for that. But for whatever reason, they still pick. Yeah, right. Yeah. The delegates, let's say Sanders get like 48%, and then at the end of it, the delegates all move over to Biden or something, like some ridiculous number, in which case Biden wins. And you're like, that's a disparity, one of it. The worst of it will be if they cheat Sanders. If you remember, at the Nevada convention, Sanders won the Nevada convention because Hillary Clinton's delegates didn't get there or something like that. So they kept Sanders' delegates from going into the building in one sense, and then when the vote took place, shafted the people in the vote and then screamed that they were throwing chairs. There are no videos of them throwing chairs. Yeah. It's like the people were on TV asking Sanders, are you okay with your supporters throwing chairs? And Sanders is like, I'm not, that's a beat your wife question. And it's like your supporters are rowdy Bernie bros who are flipping out when they lost. And the reality of it is, I had a conversation with the owner of the company that I used to work for. And he was like, what is going on with your friends, throwing? I was like, did you see any chairs thrown?
I watched that. I mean, like, they were
pissed off.
They were
because
pissed
they were cheated.
off, and they were like cutting people off, but there was no physical.
There was no physical. Well, what they cheated. They did this kind of sound vote.
Right,
and the sound vote, and says, "All right, Hillary got it.
Yeah,
let's end it."
I remember watching that clip. Yeah,
and
I didn't see chairs.
There were no chairs. And then it's like when you're talking to Democrats, the Democrats are like, "You guys are just being sore losers, man." And it's like, "Did you see anything being thrown?" No, I'm just saying. It's like, no, you guys cheated to steal that, but they didn't care at the point where they got cheated.
All right, so Port Film Co-op says, thank you for the super chat. He says, hey Jamal, just a plug for Centrist Film Podcast, Meat Bone Express. Guests include Thomas Frank. Check it out on YouTube and SoundCloud.
What is it called? Meat?
Shameless plug.
Meat?
From Meat.
M-E-E-T?
M-E-A-T.
Oh, Meat?
Bone Express.
Bone.
Guests include Thomas Frank. Check it out on YouTube and SoundCloud. He's writing it down.
I'll check it out.
Charles.
I like Thomas Frank.
Pereira, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Thank you for the super chat. Charles says, can't wait for a situation like 48%, 10, 5, 5, and 5, and see Sanders capitulate.
That's what I mean. That's what
you get for trusting solely on electorality.
That's what I mean. Like, that's
like what happened.
It's like you get Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, Gillibrand, you have a bunch of corporate Democrats where it's just kind of sprayed out, and Sanders is like 47, 48%, and they go into the second round. And all of the superdelegates from the corporate Democrats lump into one candidate.
Join forces like fucking Voltron.
Yeah. And so it's like, all right, I'll be a corporate, Democrat, like I'll be the presidential candidate. You can be my VP. You can be my Secretary of State. And all the way down the line, you have a bunch of corporate Democrats because they all agree to be in the same government. And then you get that with Bernie Sanders.
It's like corporate Democrat Voltron.
Backing up Cory Booker for president. Some shit like that.
Oh, God.
God, that would suck. But you can see the problem that's happening with all of these Democrats. Like, Sanders has to win it outright.
Is that why? There's so many Democrats on the ticket?
Possibly.
Are they shooting for this?
I don't know if they're shooting for it or as if Trump is just that weak. Like, they think he's infinitely beatable, and so all of them jump on board. And then you have a lot of these people who, let's be honest, don't necessarily want this notion of Sanders taking the party. Because if he takes the party, they're meal. Because think of it for the moment. For the first time in my lifetime, a candidate that's running for office that's not taking big checks, not taking big donations, that the only money that he's getting that's pushing him is from us. Yeah, we're his donors. We're his buyers. Like, we're his investors. We're the people who put money.
I believe he's going to work for me.
Yeah. I mean, or us. I mean, we are the 99%.
Oh, when he say not me, us?
Not me, us. Yeah, not me, us. But you get what I mean. Like, he's not... Like, this is not a situation. They lose a certain degree of power because money is not the juice in this in this contest at that point. So I would imagine all of these guys would be running because their millionaire backers are saying, you better get in that fucking race. You need to win that race.
Get your ass in there.
You better get your ass and do something. And yeah, they get in. No, Beto has been working with Obama's bundlers to get more money. Biden apparently was like Comcast, got like $700,000 over one night from a big ticket donors. Sanders did that with small ticket donations of like $27 a piece.
Yeah. Comments, people are agreeing. They're saying, yes, they're shooting for it. Look at history. It's obvious.
Yeah.
Rinston says they want a brokered convention. A corporate candidate's first job is to screw the progressive.
Screw them, yeah. And because you have, two lefties in the race.
Now, okay, so Robert James says, will Sanders be forced to make deals to get over 50% on the first round?
Maybe. That's the other part. It depends on what deals. But he's been going to the various places, schmoozing with the Democrats in those areas. Like, part of the... I don't think he's going to be attacking the party. Like, I don't think he can.
Do you think he should?
That's a hard one. I want to say yes. But if I was a political advisor, that's a different question. Like, let me explain what I mean. If anything that Sanders says, anything that any of them says to attack each other, Donald Trump is going to pick up and say, all right, I'm going to put this in this folder. And when they're running, all of those attacks are going to be landed. And he's going to say, even Biden said this. Even Beto said this. So they're in a phone booth. You can only show policy difference. If you get into attacks, it becomes difficult. Now, that doesn't mean that they won't do that around, somebody says, hey, here's a document. Don't tell them I gave it to you. In which case, they give it to a reporter where their hands aren't on the document. If you remember the Steele dossier, Clinton said she didn't have anything to do with that for months on end. And finally, information started to come out and she was like, okay, I did. Like, you could put stuff to your media sources and, I have people who give me stuff and says, don't tell them where it comes from. So,
didn't hear this from me. Irene Byrne says, he signed a contract and he can't attack them.
Yeah.
I do remember that. Like when he, my brain just completely froze. When they were saying backing Hillary.
Oh,
and
it was
part of the contract was you agree that if you lose, you would back
you have to back the
nominee.
Yeah. Not to mention, I think there were political issues that forced that also. Like, after the capitulation and after they broke him and raised them up on the cross and they threw eggs at him and strawberries and onions at him.
Is this like the chairs being thrown? Because this sounds like shit that didn't happen in real life.
That's what happened to Sanders, babe.
Oh, okay.
It's on the DNC thing. If you watch it, he's crying and whatnot.
I never saw eggs and strawberries being thrown at Sanders.
My point is this. When they dragged his broken body out of there, Jane dragged him home. And I'm pretty sure he was bitter at that. Because I know he knew he was cheated. In fact, the question that needs to be asked, and this, I don't know who gets the opportunity to ask Sanders this, but he should be asked. Fox News.
They say Buttigieg, that's how I pronounce his name.
Oh, God.
They say Buttigieg is already attacking Sanders.
Yeah, he is. But
Bernie needs to become a martyr, no way out.
I don't know if he's going to take those attacks without hitting back. When Buttigieg attacked him, Sanders
What's his name?
Buttigieg.
Okay, go ahead.
And I gotta be honest, I don't care what his name is because he's never going to go anywhere. But like,
I just like to say his name.
His name's so weird. Buttigieg. Booty. Let's call him Booty. Booty. Yeah, Booty is attacking him already. But Booty was part of that anti-Sanders group. Now, Sanders released polling information showing that he was the better candidate against Trump. Like, so he's parroting those threats, but he should not, under any circumstances, sit back and get hit. And whatever deal that he's made, it should be a breach of the deal if he's getting attacked.
Yeah.
So let's be very clear. He's also threatened David Brock by sending him a letter saying, if you attack me, all hell's going to break loose. Listen to this. So Fox News asked Sanders a question, and that question needs to be answered.
What was the question?
Let's do this.
Senator, it looks like nobody knows for sure, but it looks like Vice President Joe Biden is likely to get into the race. Are you worried that the DNC, if that, he would be a strong establishment candidate, he's obviously been around for a long time. Are you worried that the DNC might put its finger on the scale again, the way that they did to you back in 2016 with Hillary Clinton?
Well, you're right. We went through that in 2016. Yeah. And I think we have come a long way since then. So we speak to the DNC every week. And I think
he's got
the
good
process,
makeup on. He looks young today.
You think I got good makeup on? Wait, just so we clear, I want to hear this one more time. Because you only hear this question on Fox News.
The DNC, if that, he would be a strong establishment candidate. He's obviously been around for a long time. Are you worried that the DNC might put its finger on the scale again, the way that they did to you
like
back
they
in
did
2016?
In 2016.
Well, right. We went through that.
Just so we're clear, Fox News asked them, do you think they will cheat you again? Do you think again? Do you think they will put his finger on the scale in order to get Joe Biden over the finish line? Again, do you think they'll cheat you again, Bernie Sanders? They cheated you, Bernie Sanders. Do you think they'll do it again? Let's hear Sanders' answer. Is he going to acknowledge?
Because as a Sanders, I don't know if I'm a Bernie broette. I don't know. Yeah, I want to hear this.
I want to hear this answer.
Like, this is my fear. It's like, what are you going to do? Like, this is why so many people were upset the first go around, because you didn't do
cheated and you didn't
what I think you should have done.
All right, so let's hear Sanders.
What are you going to do next time?
Does he acknowledge that he was cheated? Does he, in this point, say, well, wait a minute, I wasn't cheated in 2016. It was a fair, honorable contest. Does he say that? Or does he earn up to, yes, I was cheated?
Now, he's not going to, like, go full on into, yes, I was cheated. He's not going to do that.
I'd do that shit.
He's not going to do that. But I don't think he's going to lie. Let's see what he says.
Let's hear him. Let's hear
what he says.
That in 2016. Yeah. And I think we have come a long way
into the race. Are you worried that the DNC, if that, he would be a strong establishment candidate, he's obviously been around for a long time. Are you worried that the DNC might put its finger on the scale again, the way that they did to you back in 2016 with Hillary Clinton?
Well, you're right. We went through that in 2016. Yeah. And I think
we
have come a long way since then. So
you're right. We went through that in 2016. Fair enough. All right, right there. I have a question. Sanders is never going to come on this channel. And if somebody gets the opportunity to get Sanders and ask...
I believe one day. What did they say? Whisper
a dream. Do you acknowledge that cheating took place in 2016? That answer is yes. He acknowledged that. If you are cheated again, will you back up the Democratic candidate after being cheated? Understand what I'm asking here. You acknowledge that you were cheated in 2016.
Right.
That means that you knew you were cheated in 2016.
And you knew then. You knew then.
Meaning, regardless of what you were saying, like, you knew then that you were cheated in 2016. I don't think you just came to this awareness like, you know what? I think they fucking cheated me. Like, I don't think that took place.
I had to review it.
Yeah, I think he knows it. All Sanders supporters knew it, so I knew the candidate himself knew it. He had to know it. So, in 2020, if something similar happens again, are you going to support the Democrat? Like, I don't want this dodge of, I think it's going to be... No, I want a clear yes or no.
I want you to throw some chairs like those Bernie bros did.
Well, I at the very least want him to acknowledge, if I'm cheated again, I'm not going to support the person who cheats me. Like,
but
cheating
is that like part of that
contract
thing that he has to?
That's my point. Cheating should negate the contract. Whatever contract you have, meaning we're having a contest, and you're telling me in the contest that you're being impartial. Fair enough. In this, my rule set in the contest is, I can't attack you. I can't attack any other person that's in the party because all of us are being fair. All of us are having a policy-based contest. And then I find out that you're cheating. But you told me in that contract that you were being fair and impartial.
What did they say in the contract? They're being impartial.
Well, part of the contract? The DNC continuously says our rule set is impartial. They kept saying, our bylaws means we're impartial. If that's true, then you've breached your contract if you're cheating me. Like, I guess I honestly, man, one of the biggest hits that people hit me with is, how are you supporting dude after he couldn't own up to the fact that he was being cheated? Like, he couldn't even admit that the DNC was fucking him over. And they're going to fuck him over again, and you're going to be watching Sanders vote for Kamala Harris and tell people to vote for Kamala Harris after him losing and getting cheated. And I've already said I would come on this channel and I would cry for a good 10, 15 minutes. I would just weep. I would have a close-up It'd be like real right up on my mug, and I would just sit here and wail.
Now they're saying that they've all said, all the nominees or all of the people running have said that they'll support the nominee.
I know, but I'm asking a different
question.
But
I guess that's to say, okay, I lost.
Yeah.
So I'm going to support the nominee. But what? It's a different conversation to see. They fucking cheated me.
Yes.
Again. Do I still have to support the nominee?
Because think back in 2016, Bernie Sanders gets cheated. Donna Brazile, head of the DNC, comes out and even says he was cheated. And Sanders knows he was being cheated. Whatever degree of rigging you want to say, let's own up to the fact that the DNC said it was going to be an impartial contest. And the contest was anything but impartial. Whatever contractual obligation he had to not attack the person or support the candidate died the moment that they cheated you. That's all I'm getting. Now, he may have political reasons why he was kind of forced to support Hillary. You know, he didn't want Trump to get elected. If he didn't want to be a Ralph Nader. There's several political concessions that go beyond just whatever kind of litigious stuff.
Irene Burns. This is interesting. She's been saying a lot of stuff. Can you send us some information on this? Irene Burns says, read his contract. He has to support the party. It's a loyalty pledge. No other candidate had to do this. So she's saying that Sanders has a separate...
I understand that. But again, this is somewhat of a legal thing, right? I mean...
If it's just a pledge, then that don't sound legal.
Look, all the candidates have to take a loyalty pledge to some degree. I know what she means, but the candidates... So one of the rules that they've changed is that if the person is not sufficiently loyal to the party, that person may not be able to run. Like some of the stuff they put in for Sanders. But I am asking something fundamentally different than all of this. I am running in a contest. I am running to be president of the United States. I am running in a primary that is hostile to me, even though I'm the front runner. The anti-Sanders meeting had Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer. It had both wings of the Democratic Party in that meeting to stop Sanders, including Brock's, meaning media arms and all this other stuff, aligned to stop Sanders. You had the Democratic Party to stop Sanders. So, do I think I'm going to get a fair shot in this contest when everybody's against me? And they cheated me in 2016, so I know they got it out for me. And I know they're going to have it out for me in a way that makes it look like they don't have it out for me. If I am Bernie Sanders and I'm running in that contest, and I know that they've cheated me again, it's like, do I really, like, whatever pledge, whatever loyalty pledge, all of that stuff, doesn't that die immediately if I am being cheated?
Okay, let's see what he says.
He doesn't answer. He dodges.
Well, let's see. Can I see the dodge?
Yeah, he dodges. He says they've learned better, and, they're better people now.
Please don't rewind it so I got to listen to the question again.
That they did to you back in 2016 with Hillary Clinton.
Well, you're right. We went through that in 2016. Yeah. And I think we have come a long way since then. So we speak to the DNC every week. And I think the process will be fair. One of the important changes that we made, and
I don't know why he thinks that,
is, as you will recall, both of you recall, in the last time around, in 2016, Secretary Clinton had 500 superdelegates lined up behind her before this vote was cast in Iowa. And that seemed to me pretty dumb and unfair. Well, that process has been changed. And I think that works well for everybody.
But let me ask you, just because now...
The sad part about this is going to come back to haunt him if those superdelegates bite him in the ass. He says, I think it's fair and I think the process has been changed. It has been changed, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's been changed in a way that's...
Kimberly says, and this is kind of what I was thinking too. Kimberly S says, what does he have to lose if he doesn't support the candidate? It can't get much worse, really. I mean, yeah, he's going to want to be in the Senate for a while, but...
what happens?
Like if he just hulks out.
Well, again...
If he's cheated and he just goes ham and...
The legitimacy is through the cheating, though. Like, the argument that you make at that point is, look, I would have supported you if you would have just been fair to me. Like the Hillary Clinton thing, well, part of the dumbest things that the DNC did was cheating Sanders. It's most likely Clinton might have won that race regardless. Like she was such a favorite and she was so far ahead. Cheating in Nevada for like one delegate. Like it was stupid stuff like that she was doing. You could have gotten a lot more Sanders supporters on your side if they would have at least said, okay, fuck it. He lost, but it was a fair contest. as opposed to this animus that you ended up with by people who felt cheated.
Port Film Co-op, his super chat says Sam Cedar is whack.
Sam Cedar is whack. But I think Sam Cedar even knows that Sam Cedar is whack.
I don't know. I guess my thing is, it's very disheartening to hear Bernie say what he just said.
What do you mean that he would that he believes that they'll?
We've come a long way.
What is he supposed to say?
I want him to like throw a chair.
I don't want him to throw a chair. I want
him to say, "Yeah, I was cheated. I'm punching somebody in the mouth if it happens again."
I just want a definitive. If I am cheated, I'm going to do this because honestly,
well, he's just saying I'm not going to be cheated. I talk to the DNC once a week. We're homies.
But see, I don't want him to say that.
That's what he just fucking says.
But I don't want him to say that. I guess that's what I'm saying.
That's my problem.
I just want a definitive. If I am, like, for instance, I remember Nina Turner. My thing with Nina Turner was like, is there at any point where you say, okay, fuck all, I'm done, and not vote for the party? Because if there is not, meaning you would just tolerate anything, then I kind of want to know that. Because whatever you're telling me at that point is always just going to be in the context of vote for this Democrat. I kind of want to know that with Sanders. If you're cheated again, and I think that's a basic thing. Sanders can say, look, I don't believe I'm going to be cheated again. I work with the DNC. I've been talking to the DNC. We're homies. It's not going to happen. But if I am, that's what I want. Because I want that to hang out there, meaning that it's a clear thing of this is what I'm going to do if XYZ takes place. I don't want there to be unequivocal. I don't want there to be any doubt. I want it to be like NATO, Estonia is attacked, and all of the other forces coming off. Like, I want it to be a clear, definitive demarcation point that he throws down to the ground and say, this is where I am. If you cheat me, this is what I'm going to do.
Somebody said he should run as an independent.
If he gets cheated.
Yeah. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I'm okay with that. It's punishing the Democrat. But understand, if Trump wins,
with another 4 years of Trump.
Yeah, you get another 4 years of Trump. They're going to go after Social Security, Medicare. They're going to go after all that shit. I mean, so you could say, yes, I'm going to break the party in this case because the party needs to be broken and nothing can take place with the Democratic Party in the way that it's organized. And even with the Democratic Party in that way, it's almost having you in a hostage situation of, do you want Trump or do you want some kind of corporate hack? So it's like Sanders. Yes, you got cheated again, but what are you going to do? Are you going to do something that gets Trump again? Or
Miss Tree says, fart in the mic, burn it down. No, we don't want him to do that. We don't want Bernie Sanders to do that.
That would be fucking hilarious, though.
But he would be like retiring.
Yeah, that would be the end. Yeah. That would be like,
I'm gonna go. Jade and I are gonna go just sit with our grandchildren.
It's like, this is my last 6 years in the Senate. I got nothing else to do.
This is my resignation.
Because, sometimes those congressmen start getting honest when they're about to leave. Yeah, they be telling you some all sorts of shit. Even Republicans. I can't think of the guy's name, but he starts being real honest when he's about to leave. And it's like, where was this guy when he was in office?
Well, I had stuff to lose then. I don't have anything to lose. I'm going to fart in the mic.
I have no fucks to give, so let's do, that type of stuff.
All right, so let's got call-ins. Right. So what is this? What the hell is this background?
Well, the phone number has to come up in order for people to be able to call in.
All right, so
you
guys are commenting a little bit, so maybe you're interested in calling in. We're going to keep this short.
Call-ins for patrons.
Call-ins are not going to be shenanigans. Sometimes I have witnessed call-ins that get a little...
No, we're going to keep those to 5
out of hand. So we're going to keep them short so that a couple people have opportunity to call in. So be organized. What's going on back here? Did the computer freeze up?
Yeah, it's freezing.
Black background saves energy?
No, this is not a black.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's not trying to do that.
Is that true?
It may be true. I mean, it's not.
Do you want me to try to find the phone number that you gave me? And then also,
I emailed it to you.
Are the phone number, are the call-ins for everyone? Or is this for patrons only? So how are patrons going to get this phone number?
Send them to the patrons list. Put it on patrons.
Like right now?
Yeah. I thought you put it on earlier.
No, I didn't. So if you're a patron...
I mean, unless you want everybody to call in. What do you want?
That's up to you. If you're a patron, look, because we just put the number on Patreon. It's titled Call-In segment. We've got Memo Kim says, what do you think he should do? What do you think Bernie should do?
What do you mean? I do think he should nail that down. Look, there's a lot of people who are my subscribers who take issue with Sanders for not calling out the cheating. And from their perspective, it's like, I'm not supporting him because I thought he was weak.
Because he punked out.
And I thought he punked out. And if he's cheated again, he's just going to support those people again. I don't want to get him, it's like I'm not getting invested. I think it's something to be said for him saying, look, I don't think I'm going to be cheated again. I had a conversation with the DNC. We worked together well, et cetera, et cetera. But my supporters should know that I won't tolerate, I think there's him putting that down as a clear, unequivocal red line is great for his supporters, but it also kind of gets across where his limits are. And either he does it or he doesn't if it happens again. Like, it at the very least makes it very clear, this is what I'm going to do under this scenario. And people who support me can support me knowing that if I'm cheated again, that I'm not going to...
Yeah. There's something. Oh, we have a call in.
We had a call in. I don't know what happened.
Oh, they hung up. Maybe they hung up. Oh, it's still ringing.
There it is.
We did put it out on Patreon.
Where is... Oh, there we are.
So, check it out.
All right. The person is
for
going to have to call back.
now, it's just available for patrons. Maybe we'll open it up if we don't get a big...
All right.
We got a missed call.
He needs to call back.
Yeah, our computer is lagging. I saw us skipping a bit. I don't know if we're getting internet drops.
No,
or what's
we have
going
internet
on.
access, but
can we close some of these windows? Yeah. All right. While we're doing that, I guess the spiel.
Yeah, go for it.
Spiel. So we got about 230 people here.
Oh, wow.
Welcome to everyone. If you're late, where were you? We gave you plenty of time to get here. We said it was going to be at 1:30. We had some technical difficulties, so we didn't get started until late. So you have plenty of time to get here. But
I'm gonna have to get some more RAM because this is like.
All right. Well, it's loading. So yes. So this is our weekly patron appreciation, aka contributor appreciation show. If you are not aware, after today's live streaming, this video will be taken down and available only to patrons. Just once a week we do this specifically to show appreciation for all of the support given to the channel. So once a week there's a post that goes up in Patreon that says, don't forget the show's coming up, submit your topics. So actually, all of the topics that we've done today were from patrons.
Nice.
So, and
nice.
I apologize. Last week I was not here. I got some personal illness stuff that flares up, so I missed last week. But I actually did go back and look at the topic suggestions from last week. So we got a couple of those.
Yeah.
The first thing that we covered was from a patron, Nathaniel Farrier. We talked about climate change. Nathaniel wanted us to talk about climate change, so we did. We hit a couple topics on that. So make sure you log into your Patreon account to check that out. We also talked about Julian Assange. We gave an update. That was a request by patron Andrew Smith. And then we just got finished an explanation on what happens if Bernie gets 45%. That was a question that Chris G was asking us to talk about. That was a topic suggested by him. So submit your topic suggestions. We love when we get really good ones. Some of them have been really thought-provoking, and like I said earlier, I can't guarantee that climate change would have been on the topic list if it had not been for a Patreon.
Yeah, I mean,
it's just that it doesn't get a lot. It's not a big enough priority.
It's you're damned if you do, damned if you don't when you do videos on climate. So I do videos on climate every so often, especially when something is taking place and I can kind of hook it into it. But I do videos on climate just because I do videos on climate. I have no expectation of those videos being watched, literally. The people who are on the left are already there with you, meaning they already agree. And so it's like you're trying to make inroads on people who don't agree, but those people don't agree.
Yeah.
Like it's hard to make it meld. Like I would love for the climate thing to be.
Give us a couple minutes. I know people are trying to call in. We are having to kind of reboot and shut down some stuff on the computer.
Yeah. All right. So good.
So we'll get there.
It's speeding up. All right.
There.
So they should
But yes, also if you have not subscribed, everybody can't contribute monetarily, so we understand that. But please be a subscriber. If you enjoy the content, come back. Subscribe, hit the bell icon, even though every now and then you don't get notifications.
Yeah, apparently.
But do it anyway, because
right.
You might sometimes. Wait, let me
phone
finish
calls
this.
thing up, and there are like a bunch of people who tried to call.
Yeah,
so
call
please
in,
try to call back.
Call in again. Also, we have Andrew Smith, Mr. Broken ass. He says, thank you for covering Julian. You are very, very welcome. The link should be down in the description box. If not, we'll make sure that we get it put up on Patreon so that you can read the article that we gave you the update from. Anna Maxa, thank you for the super chat.
Am I missing the phone calls? What's going on?
I don't know. We've got it up. We've got phone calls that we say are missed. Trudy says, it says Jamarl Thomas is not available.
Oh, there we are.
We got a call.
Hello, who am I speaking to?
Jamarl, this is Brian.
What's going on, Brian?
We met in Berlin. We hung out over New Year's.
Oh, Brian! How's it going, man?
Hey, how you doing? Your show is great.
Oh, thanks, man. Don't tell my wife about the hookers.
Close this down. Close this. You're showing people's phone numbers.
Oh, my bad.
Thank you for that,
Thank you.
Ethos.
Thank you for the heads up. Yeah, that's that's funny, man. Now, how's it going, man? Are you still in Berlin?
Yeah. Everything's fine here. I'm just very impressed because I talked to a number of Americans very recently, and they had not heard of Extinction Rebellion or Greta Thunberg, and it's like, this is all fucking like front page news here.
Yeah.
What the fuck is going on in the U.S.?
But Berlin is different on climate anyway. Like the energy, one of the biggest issues that I had there was I was cold all the time because you guys are so attentive to the whole thing of energy. Yeah.
Wait, just real quick. So, guys, we'll just hold off from calling until we finish with this call.
Hold on. I could do this, and that way I can pull this up. Yeah, man. I was always cold, and so I was always in a situation where it was just very energy conscious. Let's say it that way.
Yeah, it's that way here, but it's fascinating here too. Is that like it's not just the high school students that are like skipping school on Fridays for the Extinction Rebellion thing. Even the medical students are doing it. So
really?
Like adults here are like going out onto the streets and protesting. It's fucking incredible.
So
and you got 0% of that in the U.S.
Yeah, that's not taking place here. I mean, like, I don't even know if it's being covered by mainstream media here. I mean, Real News Network is covering it, but it's not necessarily something that's coming on. I had the guy on from Extinction Rebellion America, and he's trying to get this thing started in the United States, but it is nowhere near like in Europe.
No, it's a world of difference, and it's so funny because the Americans are using the majority of the CO2 compared to what is happening in Europe.
I know, right? We were just talking about that with the Mozambique thing. It's like the places that are taking the hits are the places that are,
are contributing to it.
Yeah, and are the least capable of dealing with the fallout for it. You're in Berlin now. So Angela Merkel is on her way out. But there's this pipeline deal between Germany and Russia. And it's been getting a bit pressed because Donald Trump has been screaming about it, essentially making this point of, if you guys are so terrified of Russia, how are you having a pipeline deal with Russia?
The pipeline deal is going to happen.
You don't think it's going to happen?
No, it's going to happen. I mean, the Germans are just as energy whores as the rest of the U.S. The fascinating thing here is, too, so like I went with one of my buddies to a different science facility here in Germany, and right outside of Berlin, you actually go to this like very rural area, and they actually had NPD signs, and I didn't know what NPD was. And NPD is the Nazi Party. I'm not kidding.
No way! I thought
there's signs. There's signs hanging up all over on the rural parts. The Nazi Party, NPD. Feel free to look it up, and like all their signs are like this black and white and red, and like one of the signs says something in German that was like, "We need to be more like Switzerland and make sure there's no brown people here."
Wow.
And like, no, it's for real.
Coming from Germany,
this is for real shit, and it's like apparently this is like a not highly thought of party by the sort of centrist Germans, but they're not going to say no if they get in power. Reminds you of 1937.
Yeah, that's terrifying. I thought Germany is somewhat weird around this whole thing of Nazism. Like, because you guys, the country is far more passive than many other European countries, and I strongly suspect it's coming from the history of the country itself. Like, it left an impression on what took place. What is the politics of that? Like, dealing with Nazi Germany, is that something that's engaged? Like, how do they deal with that?
Well, so I think a big part of it is that, well, like the U.S. has been bombing the Middle East for the last 30 years, so there's a ton of immigrants here. I mean, the area I live in, town where you were at, is huge Turkish and Syrian immigrants, and the predominantly white German folk who want everyone to speak German, they're right wingers. I mean, there's a ton of them here, and there's no way to like explain to them like, really, how did that happen? They're not going to listen. They just want their, well, I mean, they want their very white country.
Yeah. That's wild, man. That's wow. That's terrifying coming from Germany just because of the history of Germany. And at this point, the odd part about it, and I'll let it be on this. I'll let it end on this one. Hitler tried to take over the European, continent. With military force, and Merkel ends up doing it just through economic might by itself. The European Union is essentially, run, or like the power center of it is Germany.
Well, they're the ones that are given the credit, but it's really Brussels who's running the show. I mean, it's not really Merkel. She's actually powerless, and she's about to go away. And of course, then now they have.
I don't think Merkel is powerless. You really do think she's powerless? I mean, it seems like she used to wield. Okay, fair enough. She's a lame duck at this point. The moment that you tell people when you're leaving, you're leaving. But I didn't get the impression from her as she was a lame duck even now. Am I wrong on that?
She's kind of a lame duck in the sense that Germany hasn't been really truly dictating the European Union at all. The whole reason the European Union was like all looking to Germany was because it was an export market. And you look at the export market with BMWs, Mercedes, all of these like fancy high quality German toys. Well, that doesn't change the fact that the European Union does not exist in that sort of fashion aside from Germany. So they benefited the most from the European Union, but the people who are making the money are in Brussels. And of course, the people who are like blasted. Oh, and I must thank you 10,000% for your Brexit coverage. It's fucking hysterical. I just love when you actually like play that shit out. It's so good.
The Brexit thing is fascinating to me, man. I met this cat that was British living in Germany. And him and I were having this conversation about Brexit. And he was like, I don't think it's going to take place. And he's, he had been in Germany for like 10 years. He had lost his ability to vote for Brexit and all. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right. Anything else that we want to cover before we get on to the next one? Anything else you'd like to say?
I think so. But, dude, thank you for taking me out that night, man. I had a damn good time.
Where was I?
Likewise. Drink a shot of tequila for me.
I know,
both of
right?
you together.
Oh, not even tequila. Whatever that drink is that you gave me that was like tomato juice or something else. Yeah, it was rough. It was a Berlish German drink. Yeah.
All right.
It's a special German tradition.
Yeah.
It's called Mexicaner.
That's it. Thanks, man. You have a good one, man.
Thanks for your call. Thank you.
You too. Take care.
Bye. Yeah, I had a good time that night. I went to it was a play or something. That's what it was. It was a play. And the play asks this basic question of, when is the last time you've done something that you didn't do the day before? Essentially, who are you when nobody else is watching? And the play is this kind of exploration, this euphoric exploration of life. So after that, I think it was like maybe 10, 11 o'clock at night, I get on the subway and go trekking through the night to find him. And it's like this kind of bar. And I find him at the bar, and we're like smoking cigarettes. He's like, have all the cigarettes that you may want. And he's like buying me shots of tequila. And so we're like doing tequila and smoking and just kind of talking for the next night. I think he bought me like a shawarma on my way back. Because he's right. It's a Turkish area. There are a lot of Turks in the area.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, we could take another call, and we don't have the phone thing where we can hold people on hold, but we could take another one. That was awesome. That was like, it was so random. He was like, "Hey, dude, I think you're in Berlin." I was like, "I am in Berlin." He said, "You want to hang out?" And this is always this kind of like, all right, I don't want to end up in a duffel bag, so let me tell somebody where I am. That type of stuff. I don't know
who that somebody was.
I told you that I was out somewhere. I
vaguely remember that. Mark the Storm. I want Mark the Storm to be able to call in because he was the one that submitted. Hopefully this is Mark the Storm.
Hello, what's your name? Where are you calling
Trudy.
from? Trudy. What's going on, Trudy?
Oh, you know, I wanted to talk about those darn superdelegates, Jamarl.
Go for it.
The rule says that they do not vote in the first round unless it is uncontested. And
Wait. What does that mean? They don't vote in the first one unless they're uncontested. The uncontested part is Stormy.
Uncontested means that you've won over half of the regular delegates. Say the first state has 100 and you get 51.
Right.
And you go on that way all through the whole thing. You end up with 51% of all the regular delegates. That triggers the right for the superdelegates to vote in the first round because it says they don't vote unless there is a clear winner. So you've got a winner of the general election delegates, but the superdelegates get to vote then.
Well, wait, that's what's
in that first round.
So that's what's throwing me. The other thing that was being read, the superdelegates don't vote unless there's not a clear winner. Right? I mean,
right.
But the clear winner is 51%. Like if you have 1,000 delegates and the person gets 501, but you're saying that's not a win.
No, it's because it doesn't include the count of the superdelegates, and they get to vote.
Oh, I think, but see, I think see the discrepancy. But you know, the superdelegates are chained. Like in that first round, they're
some of them are.
Trudy, I'm telling you, they are. Like the first round, they're because otherwise nothing has changed from the. That's
what Donna Brazile said the day they changed the rules. She says we're still in there.
They are still in there, but they're
don't
in there
make them.
In the second round, if there was a contested convention.
Somebody says, yeah, but you're not in the first round if there's a winner, and she says, yes, we are.
I don't know about that one, Trudy. I've seen wording that they've used where they've like call them like attached or something to that effect. Like I'll give you an example. Do you remember back in 2016, Bernie Sanders blows out Vermont? Like I think he's like 80%, some obscene amount. And Howard Dean turns around and votes for Hillary Clinton. And people were like, outraged. Like, what? How do you... It's like, who are you representing if Vermont votes this much and you turn around and vote for Sanders? Now, in this situation, Howard Dean is stuck voting for whoever wins the state. Technically, he gets a vote, but technically he doesn't because he's not really controlling the vote. Is that what you mean? Like where they're attached to whoever wins, with the exception of going into the second round. Like, so in this case, even though like Sanders wins Vermont, Howard Dean votes, but Howard Dean is forced to vote for whoever wins.
That's only true in a few states. Only a few states made the law that their superdelegates have to go with the state's winner.
Okay. All right. Everything that I've heard up to this point, was 51% thing. What is this? Oh. Yeah, everything I've heard up to this point, I've read up to this point, was 51%. But fair enough.
Thank you, Trudy.
Fair enough. Trudy's on it. Kicking ass. Totally kicking ass.
Keep it straight. Anything else you want to say, Trudy?
Yeah, anything else?
Finish the call? Is Trudy still with us? Trudy!
Is there anybody out there?
Oh, hello.
There you are.
My face hit the mute button.
It was like, she's there?
Yeah, anything you want to say before we finish up, Trudy?
No, I just want you to think about that word, unless.
That's the catch, right? Unless.
Okay.
That's the rub. So let me ask you this. If Sanders, what do you think he's going to do? Do you think that if he's cheated again, he turns around and supports the people who cheated him?
Yeah.
Like, you think he does? So he turns around and supports Joe Biden?
Definitely, because he's that much against Trump.
That would kill me, man. My
Well,
head would...
it'd kill a lot of us.
That would hurt. That would
I
hurt.
think that's his thinking, is that the most important thing is to beat Trump.
Trudy, I'd be here. I'd be on this channel for you, and we can cry together. Just I know, right? I just have one person after the next calling in, just crying with me.
I think if that happens, there's going to be hell to pay.
That would hurt, man. That would hurt so bad. Like if it's one of those things where you know they cheated him, and he turns around and still gets up there and says, "I need you to vote for Cory Booker. I need you to vote for Kamala Harris or Kristen Gillibrand
or Joe Biden, whatever."
Yeah. Oh God, that would hurt.
Well,
and
I think Trump will win by 80%.
Biden is smelling Jane Sanders' hair. He's leaning in. He's looking at Bernie. Bernie Sanders is decks Biden into a fight, the geriatric fight on the stage. She's like, "Oh, get your hands off my wife!" And oh God, that'd be awesome.
I think if it really appears that Bernie was cheated at all, and he endorses somebody else, Trump's going to win by a landslide.
I agree with you on this. I think that'd be held.
I won't vote for Trump.
The hell to pay will be Trump in office again.
Yeah, and because it's not just Trump in office, it's Trump in office getting rid of Medicare. Trump in office getting rid of Social Security. Trump in
office on a second term.
On a second term, passing tax cuts because he's going to say, "I have a mandate now that I won." And if Trump wins, he's probably going to get the House and the Senate or one of the other. Meaning,
oh my God,
it's the worst case scenario. So because think of what
because so many people will just stay home instead of going ahead and voting down ballot.
Yeah, that's my point. That's my point, Trudy. Yeah. And the sad part about this is, they already have the Senate, meaning Republicans have the Senate by bare margins. If they take the House, or even if they make good inroads in the House, oh my God, the people like the Mansions of the world are going to be voting with the Republicans. No, this is a worst case scenario if they win.
The worst case scenario is Bernie not winning and the climate kills us all in 10 years.
There's that too. But
because Bernie's our only hope at this point and our last chance.
I do feel like this is the first time in my lifetime where there's a potential for something legitimate, not BS. Like where, Obama comes out and says hope and change, and then people are like, oh, change. Maybe we can change. And then he doesn't do it, and the people are disgruntled because they're like, well, this guy told us he was going to change. But Obama put change on the ballot in an odd sense. And the public didn't get what he put on the ballot. And now Sanders comes up and says, all right, fine, I'm going to be that change. And is pushed on by this notion that he has a public support to do this stuff. So I am fingers crossed and, a warrior for Sanders. And my wife is telling me time. So, Trudy, thank you for calling
Thanks for your call, Trudy.
Well, thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
Enjoy the rest of what's left of the weekend.
But she's
thank you. You
7
too.
hours, 8 hours left. Yeah.
Love the show.
All right. 2 good calls. Very cool. I was looking at all these emails. We got a new patron.
That's
Irene Burns. Burn it down, Burns.
I was wondering if she was trying to call. Like she was like, I gotta be a patron so I can get those digits. Let's see.
This is Miss.
What?
Is this a Miss Thomas? Is this a Miss Thomas?
Yes, it is.
Wait a minute. I am Mrs. Thomas.
Well, you're Mrs. Aisha. I mean, Hollingsworth Thomas.
Right, but this lady that's on the phone, her last name isn't even Thomas. She gave up her name.
Who she gave up her name to?
She gave up her name to her husband.
Oh, I don't count that.
Don't let her come here talking about Mrs. Thomas.
I don't count that. They don't count that. That ain't real. I don't count that.
Yes,
it's like America. If you have American citizenship.
Wait a minute. Who do we have on the line? Could you state your name, please, caller?
This is Diane, Jamarl's mom. You're my mother-in-law. And I just called to say I really enjoyed the program.
Wait, are you a patron?
I don't know if she's.
Yes,
are you a
patron? I am on a patron.
She's a patron.
She gotta be a patron if she got the phone number.
Oh, right. That's right. That's right. That's right. That's right.
Every month, I'm on contribution.
That's right. That's funny.
Excuse me?
How are you doing today?
But Tia, excuse me. Seems like I'm catching a cold, but let Jamal know. If he park in my parking space again, it's going to be a problem. So we will talk later, but I thoroughly enjoyed the show.
Well, glad you enjoyed it. Thank you very much.
All right.
Be careful.
Bye-bye.
Be safe.
She trolled you. Your mom trolled you.
That's okay. I'm going to move the car back into the parking space. She was like, mother. All right. Wait, this has gone on for like 2 hours. Yeah, more than 2 hours. All right. I'm going to end this here. I have one that I kind of want to do, but that's a little bit more on a serious point. The CIA, like...
God, you're doing that later.
I'm doing that one later, but the story is awesome. A guy in France writes a book. And in this book, he reveals that the CIA, it's part of it we already know. Meaning we knew that the United States had a role in funding terrorist groups in Syria. But we didn't know how far. Like, so this goes all the way back to 2010. Is that right? 2010. Yeah, 2010. Even though the official, Sycamore Timber Sycamore was the original name for it. Technically, so the notes, the operation started, I think, in 2013. In actuality, it started in like 2010. And essentially, they were funding anti-Assad rebels, the CIA. The CIA, in order to get around this notion of Congress knowing it, was going through MI6 through Britain, essentially like funding money through that organization.
Let's pick this up.
Putting money through that organization so they can do it in secret. And then, I'm talking, what do you mean?
Okay,
they're doing it where they can fund it in secret, and then after funding it where they can do it in secret, spreading it out through all these anti-Assad groups. So you end up with a situation where all of these groups are in Syria, all of these anti-Assad groups, and Western intelligence services, United States, France, Turkey, all of these groups, Qatar, Saudi Arabia, was using their intelligence services and additional money to fund any and every hand chopper that they can find to go out and take down Assad. Like, it's an amazing document. Zero Hedge knocks it out the park with the document. And they list how this was being done, like kind of in detail on how this stuff was being done. It is an amazing bombshell. It's an amazing bombshell. All right, this is going to be the last call. Hello, and who's speaking?
Hey, what's up?
What's going on?
Oh man, it's been a while.
Who am I talking to?
Oh, Mark Benjamin.
Oh, Mark Benjamin. That's the one I was trying to
Mark.
get to call
What's going
in.
on, Mark?
Glad you could get to it.
Oh, it's been a while. I finally got the jobs ready and thinking of between Andrew Yang, Tulsi, and Bernie.
You say you're going to supporting Yang, Tulsi, and Bernie. So you like Yang?
Yeah, I like Yang because, like, a lot of the things he brings up resonates with me, and he's paying attention to the problems that I'm kind of noticing going out there. Like, one of them is, like, tech outpacing the ability to, tax it or to recognize the problem so that one can, like, maybe corral, like, the things going on. Like, I always harass you about cryptocurrency. There's AI, there's, like, and there's such a great girth of ways to do capital flight that I can seriously see real problems going forward when in terms of how the system is currently operating.
Yeah, I can see that. Yang, I would say that's Yang's strongest suit to me, where he talks about dealing with the system itself.
Mark, do you have the video playing in the background? We got some feedback.
Some noise.
There's a lot of background noise with your phone.
Oh, that's because I'm in the bus.
Oh, okay.
That's why. That's why. All right.
Yeah.
Well, Mark, let me answer this off air because it's kind of loud. It's
Okay. I have one last thing to bring up.
But thank you for calling in, man. I do appreciate it.
All right. Yeah, the Belt and Road Initiative. I want you to talk about that and like how cryptocurrencies might affect politics, because I seriously think it will have a strong effect on politics.
Yeah.
Politics future.
Thanks, man. I appreciate your call. So Yang, that's Yang's strongest point to me. Like Yang gets.
Okay, so repeat what he said, because people are saying they had a hard time. I had a hard time.
Hearing him, but it was something about Yang. His point was that Yang is talking about the system itself as opposed to how to deal with the problems. Like I give an example. Even if Tulsi Gabbard got exactly what she wanted, let's say Tulsi Gabbard was this peace thinker. She says, "I'm not going to invade these countries." Even if your political system is placid and docile, your economic system is still adversarial. Okay. So like, even if you had a political system that says, all right, we're not going to intrude into this stuff, you still have an economic system that battles. Like, it's zero sum. Like, even in your country, in the domestic front, companies fight one another for dominance. Oftentimes they end up merging with one another, but ultimately they fight one another for dominance, and then they fight internationally for dominance also. But what I'm trying to get across is your political and economic system are enmeshed. Just because your political system is placid doesn't necessarily mean that your political system is going to be placid, especially if you have companies that have every incentive in the world to get your political system to reach out to get advantages. Like, what reason would a company have to stop at the border? A company is going to do what it can to maximize its profit. Right. And in our system, we have a political system that is ensconced in cash. And what that means is they're going to give that cash to try to get various advantages that go beyond just company to company, but that go into the system where the government itself is taking actions that advantages the company. So, for example, Iraq. Think of all the riches that were made in Iraq by companies like Halliburton and these Blackwater, these companies that can go and do contracts. Think about the military contracts that were done. Think about the companies that were building resistance to mines, boats, bombs, ships. All of those things are things that people are building and buying. That's companies with a vested economic interest. Now, how do you stop your government from building those things when senators are in those districts, when those companies give campaign donations? Yeah. Like, the moment that those things are there, all incentives are to keep those things there because people are sucking off the government tit. Going beyond that, even if you're going into this notion of like companies like in Canada, where the company was bribing officials in other countries, and the Canadian Prime Minister Trudeau was protecting the company from any kind of prosecution from laws within Canada itself, because he was like, well, I don't want to do anything that adversely affects the company, because it's going to have jobs on the line, et cetera, et cetera. My point is this: just because you have a political system that's docile doesn't necessarily mean that your countries are not going to be in conflict, especially when your countries are dependent upon cash, or your country runs on cash, and that cash is incentivizing certain behaviors that are belligerent, potentially to other countries. So it's like, yes, Tulsi Gabbard can be pretty docile, but what's going to happen after Tulsi Gabbard leaves that office? Does she honestly believe that the system itself is going to have sufficiently changed to where it's not doing that? And I got to be honest, if you have a capitalistic system in and of itself, it is an adversarial system. How on earth are you going to have your political system to be docile and peaceful in a system that is inherently adversarial? Think of Venezuela. The United States produces a ton of oil in order to drop the price of oil. Once the price of oil is dropped, enemies like Iran, Russia, and Venezuela take a hit because the price of oil has dropped. The United States wants to get its hand on the resources from Venezuela, and so the political policy, even though there's geopolitical strategy associated with us wanting to get rid of an old, Russian regime or Soviet regime, there's also this notion that the companies themselves can get their hands on the access or the resources. Meaning Venezuela has a ton of oil, and Venezuela has a ton of minerals and resources that companies in the United States has a vested interest in getting their hands on. How do you stop your country from being entirely belligerent when the incentives...
It's in their best interest to do so.
Yeah, exactly. Like, does that make sense? Yeah. I'm trying to make this argument that your capitalistic system, even in the best of terms, with a lefty in office, a non-intervention, anti-interventionalist, you still end up in situations that pivot you in conflicts, just from the economics of the situation. Yeah. So it's like, even if you had Tulsi, even if you had Sanders, how do you stop your country from getting itself into these conflicts that are spurred on by economic interests? And unless they're talking about this, like changing the system, like literally saying, we're fundamentally changing the system where the incentives don't go into producing these outcomes. Well, that's a whole different matter.
Yeah.
Now, at the very least, Yang mentions it as a system. Like, Yang talks about this as, well, we have an economic system that is, and he talks about it as if it's a device and a tool that can be, many of the other candidates don't. So I get him on that. I know this is a long-winded thing, but I guess my point is I get him on that point. Mark is, he wasn't there to make the connection. I was trying to do it.
Can you pull up super chats? Because I think we're like 3 behind, and I want to make sure that we hit the super chats.
What? This computer has been
Before
lagging.
We finish up for the day
Brutally today. Also, I need to check Streamlabs.
If you haven't hit the like button,
yes, please hit the like, share,
button,
subscribe.
so we know that
the
you
sharing,
like the content.
Balthazar. It's all a question of incentives. Yeah, incentives create paths to least resistance. Yes, if you set up choices, but all choices are bad, you'll make bad choices. Yes, they did this experiment. So what they found was that poor people make bad choices. Now, this isn't because there's something inherently wrong with the person.
They have less choices.
Their decision spaces are more constrained. Right. It's like you have to hit it dead on the head in order to make it work. Otherwise, it's a bad choice. So it's like, let's say, being rich and wealthy, your choices are just better. It's not that the people are better. It's that they're better off because the choices are better. It's like the pathways are better. Like they were doing, this is research that these guys were doing, and they were like, oh, the poor make bad choices because they're poor. The situations are constrained. It's not them.
Yeah.
Like that, but that's really important to understand. The rich, can feel some kind of way like, oh, I'm feeling awesome because I'm rich and I make all these good choices. Well, you make these good choices because you have an opportunity to make those good choices. I'm not saying that a person who's poor can't do fucking amazing. It's just that when you look at probability and you see, all right, this person in this situation, how many of these outcomes turn out bad? And if you see a situation where like 70% of the outcomes turn out bad, even 60%,
yeah,
you need to reevaluate it.
All right, we gotta go back.
Hanky Maltry.
Hank Moultrie.
Maltry.
What the fuck is that?
That's how you say it.
Moultrie.
3.
It's like poultry with an M.
Maltry.
Okay,
that's how I said
read the super chat, please.
Hank Maltry. Bernie already said at a rally he'll support the Democratic.
Is that diabetes?
Support the DM, the direct message. The Democratic.
I
think that's supposed to be DM, Democratic nominee.
Yeah, the Democratic nominee.
Yeah, he has said that. But again, my contention is only if he's cheated. Like I know he said that. My question is different. You understand my question, right? My question is different. My question is not if you have a fair contest and you lose. Then
do you still support the nominee if you're cheated?
If you're cheated.
We understand that you have a contract and you've already done the loyalty pledge.
But doesn't the contract get null and voided?
Everything that we said was part of the game plan goes out the door if they cheat me.
If they cheat me, right? That's my question. That's why that's why I'm saying my question is somewhat different than the questions he's been asked. Even the Fox News question kind of goes there, but it deviates. If you're cheated, then what? Elephants on Coke. Great Chapo Trap House episode on the history and Marxist interpretation of American conspiracy theories. Talk about Freemasons and UFOs and beyond. That's funny. That's awesome. Anamaxa. Oh, thank you, Anamaxa. Mr. Broken Ass is Andrew Smith. Thank you for covering Julian.
Yeah, he was the one that recommended Julian's sound. I got the rest of them.
Very
Can you see if there are any Streamlabs?
Let me check.
Just to double check. All right, guys.
We tried to get all of these, and I don't like leaving. And people are like, Jamal doesn't do his Streamlabs. I try to get all of them in because I do appreciate all of the assistance that you guys give to the show. No Streamlabs. That's shocking.
Shocking that there's no Streamlabs.
Okay, fair enough.
All right, well, we checked.
Guys, I want to thank you all for your help with the show, honestly. In real terms, my mouse stopped. Oh, there it is. In real terms, you guys really do.
Wait a minute, we didn't read that one.
Which one?
Fraser Anning is cool as ice, yo. Port Film Co-op. Who's Fraser
I
Anning?
love this picture. That's a face.
Yeah, it is.
That's awesome. I love that. Fraser Anning is cool as ice. Fraser Anning is cool as ice. It's in caps. You have to increases modulate the value of your voice.
Say it. Read it how it's typed.
Fraser Anning is cool as ice. Yo!
No, not yo.
There's two
at the end.
exclamation points
it's a
saying
comma
yo
before the yo.
There are two
period.
exclamation points. There are three exclamation points.
It's Fraser Anning is cool as ice, yo.
Yo.
No.
There's a slight pause.
You're not reading it right. It's a comma, not a period.
That's a pause. A comma gets a pause. It's the length of time of the pause that matters.
You gave a period worthy.
I gave a comma worthy pause. I don't think you know the amount of time that pause is supposed to be.
Okay.
I was in the National Honor Society, the
Then
Spanish Honor Society.
I
wasn't in the National Honor Society and Spanish Honor Society.
Then you should stop lying. If you were
What
in
are
the
you talking
Honor
about?
Society,
I gave it a pause. There was a pause.
Somebody said yo was a pronoun.
Either way, I gave it a sufficient pause. Your pause was insufficient to the task at hand. Not to mention you need to rev up for the three exclamation points behind yo, and I don't think you can do that just by jumping off with a slight pause. It's like if you were running and taking a jump.
The exclamation points are not tied to the yo. They are tied to the entire statement.
I know. But you have to rev up for it.
No. Oh, okay. We're going to move on.
It's like, do you remember the guy in Comic Historian where he was talking about the Green Lantern and he was like, God of Light? Well, when he was saying it, he had to rev up in order to say it. He couldn't just do that from a sitting position. And so you could hear him as he's going this thing and he's like, God of Light, Superman, God. You know, he would do these kind of bullying voices. But it took him a split second to... I'm saying that split second is required to make that sentence say the way that sentence is supposed to be said. Just saying. Just saying.
All right, I'm done.
You're looking for the audience approval one way or the other, huh?
No.
I don't need the approval of my audience on that. I have a
exit.
good serene of knowing
Okay.
correctness and rightness.
Whatever helps you sleep at night.
I don't sleep all the night.
Well, there you go.
I don't sleep all the time.
There you go. Oh, wait, right. Spiel. Can you do the spiel?
Sure. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel
I do
free.
The spiel.
Oh, you have a different spiel?
Yeah.
Go for it. Do you think, boo? Do you, boo?
If you guys enjoy the content,
Word.
Please feel free to share, like, subscribe, and you can always support the content through Patreon, PayPal, Streamlabs, Super Chat,
Mailbox,
send through the mail,
email,
send the email card,
pigeon,
e-card, Hallmark e-card,
pigeon, carry pigeon, magical rabbit.
Join us next week for the weekly patron / contributor appreciation show. But yeah, if you're not contributing, we understand. Well, I don't understand if you're not contributing.
Guys, look, my rule on this is always the same. If you guys can help, please do. If you can't, totally understand.
I'm
just enjoy
joking.
the content.
You know I'm joking, right?
No, you're not.
Well, I don't know why.
I know you well enough to know.
Well, I know, if I was watching somebody all the time and they were like doing Patreon, I would give $1.
You know, I
would probably give $1 a month.
Yeah,
there are people that I support.
There are people I support too. I support Real News.
But what I was gonna say was, if you don't contribute monetarily, we get it. But make sure you're subscribed.
Please subscribe. Please
and
like.
Share.
And share.
And if you like the content,
don't like
share
it unless
and
you like it.
And make sure you like today's video.
Well, yeah.
Because it'll make me feel good.
Why?
Because I'm on it. If they like the other ones, that's just a testament for you.
My videos do pretty good with likes. I try to get at least a 10% like percentage.
Then half of that like is mine.
I get usually a 10% like percentage.
Can you address what I just said?
So
if this video gets a big like percentage, it partially is because of my presence. Is that fair?
Maybe. It might be true.
Okay.
I think some people would spite me just to be like, yeah, that's completely true. In which case they may be backing you up. But I think we do perfectly fine on the videos together in general. And the videos that you're usually on usually do really well.
All right, so I'll be here next week. Sorry I missed last week.
You should give them
I was feeling
a video to make up.
I should give them a video?
A makeup video.
Like a patron makeup video?
Yeah.
Or like a makeup video you want me to do my makeup on camera?
No.
Is that what?
Like on a Tuesday, we do like a 30-minute
makeup tutorial?
A tick for the week or something. All right, I'm going to end this here. Guys, thank you all. And honestly, I really do appreciate the you guys supporting the channel. Well, I do.
No, I was laughing. Somebody said it was annoying. That's funny. We do appreciate it. He appreciates you so much that he drags his wife in to show his appreciation once a week.
I don't think I drag you in. Yeah, I think the people who know me at this point know I'm a big thing of agency. I didn't even push dude to take my last name.
My last name.
So, I definitely wouldn't drag you in. My thing is,
as if
only
you had a
if
choice.
you would want to. What do you mean I had a choice? I had a choice. You don't have to take my last name. I didn't have to give you my last name.
Me taking your last name wasn't your decision. We didn't have this grand,
I
give you permission to hyphenate your name. I made the fucking choice of my own and you rolled with it.
I bestowed the Thomas upon you. Now, you don't want to own up to the fact that you were bestowed the Thomas in this kind of ritualistic
I'm not
ceremony.
owning up to the fiction that you gave me permission to hyphenate my name, or you allowed me to not fully take your name. Didn't have anything to do with you.
Okay, all right. Feeling pretty strong now.
I got a neck.
All right, let's.
Yeah, because we're just talking shit.
Y'all have a good one. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support this through PayPal or Patreon. This video will immediately be uploaded to Patreon. So I think that's it.
To the Patreon platform. Also, if you're contributing outside of Patreon, like people who donate through PayPal, do not forget we have that new secret kind of Facebook group so that we are uploading all of this content into that group. So if you're contributing and you still want access, email the email below and I will send you the link so that you can get that access. If you got to be on Facebook. That's the only platform that we have to put all that stuff now.
Yeah.
But make sure you do that because we want to make sure you have the content.
Guys, thank you all. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Ciao.
I can hear Vince and Bo at the door.